for coming. Tonight is a big night. We're excited about tonight. Been 2 years worth of work, and you're looking at a sea of people who have dedicated their lives to this very moment. So it is an exciting time for, I think, for certainly for the district, but I think for the community as well. So tonight we have the reorganization of the school committee. So I get the pleasure of calling the meeting to order, and I will do that as 4:02. And with that, I would accept nominations for chair of the school committee.
This is Karen Bolanese calling in, and I'd like to nominate Dr. Tim Matthews for chair of the school committee.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Any further nominations? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right.
Aye.
Yes. Unanimous. Okay, I turn the meeting over to you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hackett.
Congratulations.
Thanks, everybody. I would now open the floor for nominations for vice chair of the committee.
I'd like to nominate Stephanie Minyarji to be vice chair of the school committee.
I would second
I
that.
second that.
Excellent.
And actually would ask the chair if you have any particular, since they'll be working hand in hand with you, if there are any particular things you're looking for. I think Stephanie would be great. But
We will get to that in just a second. But
Okay.
I will be. Yeah, I think that I would be thrilled to work with Ms. Minyarji. We've worked together a lot on State of the Town over the past year, and I think especially as a really tireless advocate of the students in our community through parent associations over the past many years. She's been a great partner on the State of the Town work. Look forward to doing that work with her as well. So, but I'll have more to say in a minute.
I guess that answers that.
All right, so all in favor of Stephanie Minyarji as vice chair of the committee?
Aye.
Aye. Ms.
Aye.
Bolanese? Great. So
Aye.
The vote is 5-0 unanimous, with Ms. Bolanese voting in favor via the phone as well. And with that, I would accept nominations for recording secretary of the committee.
I'd like to nominate Karen Bolanese for recording secretary of the school committee.
I'll second that.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, in that case, all in favor of Karen as recording secretary of the committee?
Aye.
Aye. That is also, Ms. Bolanese, would you like to vote for yourself?
Aye.
Okay. So that is also a 5-0.
I'm even raising my hand in the airport.
Exactly. That is also a 5-0 vote. We are happy to have our new slate of officers for the coming year. Thank you all very much, and look forward to working with you. Ms. Minyarji, if you want to, do you want to come up? Do you want to move, or do you want to stay there for the rest of the meeting?
You get a special seat. Come on.
I get a
You
special
can
seat
take my
now?
chair if you want, and I can slide over.
Whatever you want.
right,
I
let's
serve
do
at the
it.
pleasure
Why
of the
not?
chair.
Well, we've got all these people in the room. I feel like we should
right.
do it. So,
Okay.
all right. All right.
It's my line.
Feels like Harry Potter, where they changed the banners in the hall.
Hey, Andrew, is Contractor the best network? Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. It's not explicitly on the agenda tonight that we're having chair remarks, but I would like to go ahead and just make a few remarks given the salience of the moment we find ourselves in. I'd like to first thank my colleagues, Karen, Tom, Stephanie, and John, for entrusting me with the role of school committee chair at this critical time in the life of Winchester. Further, I appreciate the support I've received from many Winchester residents and educators over the past 2 years as a member of this board, and I value the strong working relationship I've built with Dr. Hackett and his team. I'd like to begin by acknowledging where we are this afternoon. I had hoped to be giving a different kind of first remarks as chair. After almost a year of preparation, followed by a sprint to last Saturday's townwide vote, the disappointing result we face today has far different implications than we imagined. State of the Town analyzed an unbelievable amount of data. Each town department made its case clearly and honestly as it could. We on the school committee, with a unified voice, had asked a great deal of this community at a challenging time in our state's and our nation's life. Select board members ultimately bridged their differing politics, and a compromise emerged. That Winchester's voters rejected this thoughtful plan by less than 300 votes out of nearly 5,000 is disappointing, and it carries real consequences for our educators and students. From neighboring communities like Melrose, we have seen that some negative and long-term impacts on our schools will unfortunately be unavoidable. But thankfully, We trust that this will also not be the end of our community's collective story. If anything, this moment demands more of us, more clarity, more collaboration, and more resolve. Our responsibility now is to refocus on the difficult work ahead with urgency and transparency. We owe that to every student who our caring and expert educators teach in pre-K to 12 classrooms across this district each day. Furthermore, Winchester cannot be a community that walks away from its values when things get hard. I want to acknowledge the historic nature of this moment for me personally, and I hope for our community as well. I believe that I am the first openly LGBTQ+ chair of this committee, and I'm honored to serve both for the community that I represent as well as all Winchester residents. My chair follows the important milestone of Winchester's first Asian American chair. Karen, if you're still with us, thank you for your 3 non-contiguous years of service. I am joined this year by a vice chair of Middle Eastern descent, the bilingual child of immigrants who attended a Title I public school. Just as I grew up learning lessons in my grandparents' plumbing shop in Fort Erie, Ontario, Canada, while my parents worked, my third colleague's grandparents were a janitor, a truck driver, and a kindergarten teacher. And with this year's election of my newest colleague, I believe that this committee has gained its youngest ever member, himself a K-12 alumnus of Morocco, McCall, and Winchester High School. My friends, these milestones matter, not as symbols alone, but as commitments. They remind us that leadership in Winchester is best when it reflects the full mosaic of our community. Our committee's diverse membership reflects a broad story about Winchester's continuing evolution. Our work here to ensure that every student, every family, and every educator feels seen, valued, and supported will always be easier when each member brings their unique experiences and perspectives to this table. Our commitment to building an ever more inclusive Winchester that honors and listens to all its residents is especially important now. In times of financial strain, it can be easy, sometimes unintentionally, for the needs of marginalized groups to be overlooked or deprioritized. We cannot let that happen. Equity is not an extra when times are good. It is our core responsibility, especially when resources are constrained. As we move forward, I will be clear about my priorities as chair. First, we will need to implement significant cuts to our budget. Let's commit to approaching those budget discussions with transparency, integrity, seriousness of purpose, and above all, empathy. This committee will make difficult decisions in a way that I hope all stakeholders can understand and engage with. Second, we will protect to the greatest extent possible the core educational experiences that define the quality of a Winchester education. While students and parents will see tangible signs of a reduced budget across our schools, this committee's North Star should be minimizing impacts on the academic excellence for which this district is known. We trust that our select board partners will help to identify cost efficiencies and new revenue, and I look forward to holding joint meetings with Winchester's Finance Committee to review our foundational budget now that the operating override has failed. Given how short a time frame there is to rework the FY27 yellow sheet, I encourage our FinCom colleagues to work with WinCam to record and post all their remaining meetings for maximum transparency. And as a parent who lives in the Morocco neighborhood, I also want to reiterate my commitment to finish the job and ensure that our last long-delayed rebuild project will finally be completed. Third, I hope that the school committee will continue to center the voices and needs of all our students and families, especially those who can feel marginalized, whether because of race, ethnicity, orientation, identity, learning differences, language, or economic circumstances. To that end, I will ask my colleagues to support the creation of a new data and accountability subcommittee of this group, which will create a dashboard, I hope, for assessing our budget's impact on students, families, and educators. Given Saturday's result, there are no painless solutions ahead, and the post-COVID progress we've made on curriculum, instructional practice, and culture is very much at risk. But as illustrated by the amazing room full of leaders joining us tonight, there is still so much thoughtful, meaningful work to do, and this community will rely on us to do it. To my fellow committee members, we now share an even weightier responsibility larger than any one of us. I look forward to engaging with you and with our broader community, guided by respect, openness, and a shared commitment to our students. I hope that we can all strive to speak with one voice. To our educators and our staff, so many of whom have joined us tonight, we know how much you give every day, even under challenging circumstances. You are the heart of this system, and we will work tirelessly to support you and to continue making our case for more funding to town meeting and the voters of Winchester. Finally, to our families and the broader Winchester community, we need you with us in the sustained, ongoing effort to shape the future of our schools, now within the confines of an insufficient budget. Your voices, your ideas, and your partnership will be essential as we grapple with this new reality, as we regroup, listen, and reformulate what parts of our WPS 2030 vision might still move forward despite this setback. Together, we will continue the work of building a school system and a community that lives up to our mission, vision, and goals, even in the face of this unprecedented budget shortage and an uncertain future. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really beautiful.
All right, so with that, we will move into our reports and action items, and the elementary literacy team final report is the first on that list of items. Oh. Public comment.
It's okay, it's your first 5 minutes on the gig, okay?
Public comment is the first thing. So if for anybody who, I don't know if there was a list circulating, but if there was and I didn't see it, is there anyone who's here for public comment? All right, seeing no one, I'm happy to close public comment and move on to our reports and action items. So item A, the elementary literacy team final report. I'd invite anyone who is participating in that to come forward to the many chairs in front of
You're up.
us.
Yes, come on down.
If we need more chairs, we can grab
Andrew,
some.
did the password change on that?
Oh, okay. Look at your phone. Okay.
Is that okay? Oh, all right.
There's
But if you talk,
seats over
we'll
here.
have to pass you the mic. So if you guys want to say something, let us know.
Well,
Okay,
that's
okay,
not
okay.
remember.
Nice try, Andrea. We have plenty of seats. Come on over. Come on over.
You know how shy I am.
I know.
It's reception. Through.
I'll start by just saying thank you for this opportunity, and I just can't give this group enough credit. Coming out at the end of a long day and certainly stepping out of their comfort zone. They perform each and every day in front of our students. They're comfortable sharing with families and caregivers, but this situation is most unique. So thank you. And there's seats here. We can move down.
And should we pass some extra mics across just in case folks want to?
I just passed that down.
John, we can share.
Do you want to sort of, I don't know if you want to hold that.
Yeah, so when anyone talks, we just have to pass these around so they can hear us.
I'll leave it here. Just wave at it.
This is so impressive.
How can I refer to you?
Just call me the
Dr. Matthews.
Mr. Chair. Or Tim.
So this afternoon, we celebrate another milestone, our recommendation for a literacy program. We want to give you a window into our journey this year, seen through the lenses of many different roles, perspectives, and experiences, all coming together with one shared purpose, supporting every child as a reader and a writer. The quote captures our journey well. It reminds us that through our shared commitment, trust, and collaboration, we have not only navigated change, we have grown stronger because of it. That strength didn't happen by chance. It was built through intentional learning, reflection, and a willingness to try something new. This year, we had a unique luxury of piloting a year-long pilot. It gave us the opportunity to dive deeply into 2 curricula, building a stronger understanding of both instructional shifts and methodology and the tools needed to support them effectively. This experience went well beyond simply reviewing curriculum materials. Our shared vision and common vision strengthened us as a professional learning community. This was truly a team effort, And it was the collaboration that made this pilot successful and led to a program recommendation we can confidently stand behind. The Hollywood award season has nothing on us. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of the incredible educators who played an essential role in this pilot, some of whom are here tonight, beginning with the piloteers. They took on a heavy lift of implementing a new curriculum under the watchful eyes of many stakeholders. They leaned into vulnerability, openly sharing their thoughts, experiences, and best practices. They welcomed peers and administrators into their classrooms, creating spaces for transparency and trust. When the work felt overwhelming or frustrating, they lifted one another up. And just as importantly, they celebrated each other's successes along the way. Throughout this journey, their voices grew stronger as their confidence deepened. And that's when the real magic happened. Their joy and engagement became contagious, inspiring all around them. We also learned a great deal from our non-piloteers. Their insights and perspectives have been invaluable as we think ahead to full implementation next year, helping us refine our approach and ensure we are meeting the needs of all learners and educators. To the ELT 2.0, who picked up right where the original ELT left off. I'm forgetting the beautiful pictures of all of these. So I'll slow down. They have been integral in communicating the vision, sharing insights, and ensuring that everyone feels informed, supported, and empowered throughout this journey. To the literacy team, who has been learning alongside their colleagues while providing essential support to both students and staff, helping to ensure instructional practices are strong and consistent across classrooms. To the leaders, who are the keepers of the vision, and our steering committee worked tirelessly to refine and create the structures and systems needed to support the piloteers, allowing them to focus on what mattered most, meeting the needs of the students. As they guided this work, their instructional leadership grew stronger, learning and evolving alongside their staff every step of the way. I also want to take a moment to recognize the many individuals who play such an important supporting role in this work. To the families and caregivers, thank you for your partnership and for trusting us with your children and this process. And to our school committee, both past and present, and the broader community for your continued support and the belief in this process. And with that strong foundation in place, there is no better way to bring this journey to life than to hear directly from those who lived it each day. Now I'll turn it over to the main attraction, the wonderful educators here tonight, who will share the highlights of this year and the important, valuable lessons learned along the way. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa. Oh, hello there.
Just press it. Okay. As you know, we have had a journey, and we are in year 2 of piloting programs and getting our parameters set, thinking about what we are doing, and that's where we are right now. And tonight, our final curriculum decision has been made, and we will be recommending something to you all. We have a lot of school data that we collected this year. As you can see, this is a slide that you've seen in the fall as well of all of the stakeholders whose voices were present in CES's compiled report, which I believe you all have. And so we had classroom observations, survey data, informal data, walkthrough data from both piloteers, non-piloteers, families and caregivers, students in the form of focus groups and surveys. Anyone involved was part of this process. And so this is from the report directly. It's about who responded to the surveys and how many observations and the exact numbers that came into play. And I will say that I think it's really remarkable that 89% of our elementary workforce completed the summative survey to give feedback. So that to me shows that everyone is invested and ready to share their feedback to move us forward. We also did look at student work in a small sample amongst fourth grade writing, and those essays were scored across all 6 raters. And so, without further ado, I don't know how to.
I didn't know this video.
This is truly a treat.
This is our debut.
Here goes.
The CES audit revealed the need for a more consistent approach for teaching literacy across the district, one that was evidence-based and grounded in research. The ELT was formed.
Together, they started a journey where there was learning, exploring a wide range of curriculum options, and crafting a literacy vision.
They evaluated potential curricular tools, narrowing the choice down to 2: arts and letters and EL education.
During their journey, piloteers attended PD sessions, learning the theory of a knowledge-building curriculum. They unpacked the materials and modules, shifted their instructional practices, and then shared that journey with their colleagues through grade level and faculty meetings and classroom site visits.
During that time, ELT 2.0 collaborated to support the pilot implementation and planning for next year.
Like, it's real fun for our teacher to learn with us and have a new system that actually, like, it's fun, and it's like, when we get in there, it's like, we're gonna have to work hard. It helped me improve my reading, writing, and listening skills.
We do like paragraphs and like write about poems and describe how they write them. The books that we've read have been so interesting and very hard to put down.
We write paragraphs and we read the stories, and it's just like relaxing. We get to learn a lot about like different things all around the world.
One of the things that I've learned from the book Esperanza Rising is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and what are the things that are in them.
The Hidatsa had to live on a reservation. The law was not fair. The government sold the land to settlers, and the settlers did not know how to take care of the prairie. And then, after a little while, the government gave the land back to the Native Americans. We get to write informational paragraphs. You can gain a lot of knowledge and learn all sorts of things.
I've learned about frogs, more facts. I've learned about gravity more and what it does to humans.
What's your favorite part?
I like to talk.
I've learned some things about different people, like Galileo on the Apollo 11 mission.
I want you to look really closely at these telescopes and discuss these questions with a partner. What do you notice about the telescopes from the photographs? And how are they different from Galileo's telescope?
This may be the greatest ELA curriculum in the world. It pushed me so much, and I had a lot of fun doing this curriculum.
I rated a 9 out of 10.
What was it, 8 out of 10?
9, I think it was
9
9.
out of 10.
9.
We spent months watching our students grow. While both paths showed us great things, one specific journey aligned most closely with our district's long-term goals for student literacy. We didn't just pick a product, we chose a partner for the next decade of teaching.
No matter which program was chosen, we knew Winchester would win.
The choice was difficult because the quality of the pilot teaching was so high across the board.
So as you can see, the stakeholders are all recommending that Winchester Public Schools adopts arts and letters K-5 for our elementary literacy curriculum. In terms of what that looked like in the data, 100% of the piloteers who piloted arts and letters recommended arts and letters be our program. 96% of those recommended it with no hesitation, 4% with reservation. The survey did not capture what the reservations were. Of the non-piloteers who completed the survey, again, 97% recommended arts and letters. That split was slightly different. 60% recommended it without reservation, 40% with reservation. Of all the survey respondents who filled it in for arts and letters, they all recommended adoption of arts and letters. While EL was a strong program and a strong contender, the feedback was a bit more mixed. Of the piloteers who recommended it, there were only 20% of piloteers who recommended it, 40% with reservation, and 40% of piloteers trying EL did not recommend its adoption. Of the survey respondents who did EL, 74% did not recommend adopting EL. So when we looked at all of that data that you saw earlier, the overwhelming recommendation, while both programs were very strong, was arts and letters. And I'm going to turn it over to the school leaders. Great. Do you want to start? Do you have to press this? Can't see it.
Apparently, I elected to begin. I think you shut it off, Andrea.
I did.
Do you not?
You don't press it.
Okay.
Press it one more time.
But you have to press it back on.
Got it. Thank you very much. All right, so our literacy vision, I'm going to give you a moment to sit with this, to really look at it, because this is our grounding principles. This is what we, at every meeting, reflected upon, thought about, sat with, and made sure that all of our decisions were centered around this. Show me if you need another second to read it. Awesome job, everyone. So we're going to begin with the principals, the leaders of the buildings. We have been in this journey with all of you this entire time, and we respect and admire all of the work you have done. And we want to talk to you a little bit about what our highlights were and what we considered to be a little challenging at times, because this was not an easy task. But I'll begin with something that sat with me after reading through the report. And this is a quote. "Through a thoughtful pilot process, Winchester has found a curriculum that its teachers believe in, that its students are responding to, and that gives the district a strong foundation for the years ahead. Because as we know, not one program is ever going to be perfect for every student that comes through Winchester. But collectively, we wholeheartedly believe after this journey that we have made the best choice."
Ella and I are going to share a few highlights from our journey. So during this whole process, we collaborated a lot across buildings, within our buildings, grade level meetings, faculty meetings. We spent a lot of time working on this program, figuring out which program we were going to choose, and it was great experience for me anyway. I don't know about you guys. There was a lot of time where we were able to visit schools. So as leaders, we visited other schools. As teachers, they visited other schools, and not just the piloteers. Non-piloteers were able to go to see the programs and be able to see them in action and ask questions and give their feedback. So that was, a great experience as well.
Through this journey, and then going to different classrooms and talking to different piloteers, we were really able to see the equity and the parity. We were able to see how this program was really universally designed to create engagement that was universal. So we saw great participation, student discourse, conversations, and this was across all levels. It wasn't just the higher level, the upper grade levels. Even in kindergarten, we were able to hear these conversations. They would do their little museum walks and just authentically talking about what they noticed and the cow that they adopted and figurative language. They were talking about figurative language in kindergarten. And then they were talking, we knew that in fourth grade, they were also talking about figurative language. So it was so amazing to see how this bar was set high, but there was also this spiral that continued upward and everything connected. And for me, one of the things that stood out was when we were, after the visits, we would get back together as a group, and Melissa and some of the literacy specialists would discuss things with the piloteers and those observing. And we, of course, one of the comments was about engagement. And in this observation, we were able to see one unit, but each classroom of the three were on different parts of the lesson. So, one was at the very, lesson 1, and it was a little more teacher-driven. And then the second was on lesson 2. And they were in small groups talking and having a Socratic circle, I believe. And then the third group was just out there. I think they were, doing a video or something. I can't remember, but that was, exciting, right? And so one of the teachers was like, well, yeah, there was engagement. In some, it seemed like they were more engaged. And then one of the other teachers said, well, actually, I think it was universal engagement. There was not one student who wasn't participating. And engagement doesn't mean you're just always excited. It means that you're invested in the learning. And they were invested in the learning, all of the students. And it was so exciting to see that. And then one of the other teachers said, but not just the students were excited, the teachers, the piloteers are back here talking to us about how excited they are to teach and how much they've grown and how they love teaching literacy now. So, we got to see so much enthusiasm and engagement across the board. And so that was another one of the highlights.
Thank you. So the highlights are too numerable to mention, and so it's not an exhaustive list up on that screen. And we also learned some really important lessons, and I'm going to start with the bottom lesson on our list, which is scheduling. We learned early on the importance of scheduling and the impact that it had throughout our school day. So that will be a challenge that we're going to work on as a leadership team district-wide to make sure that we are holding our core instructional time at least an hour for that core instructional time, and then other components of literacy time throughout the day as well. So that will be a challenge. We learned a lot of lessons this year, and we will continue to navigate through that next year. We also learned that equity is important. Every student should have similar experiences from classroom to classroom and school to school. And so that was a profound lesson, I think, for all of us that experienced portions of the pilot this year. We learned the value of ongoing
continuous and professional development. I think there's not one person in the district that could say that the professional development was an imperative for all of us, piloteers and non-piloteers. We all engaged in quite a bit of professional development this year. And then last but not least, I think we've heard this quote before, and I'm going to re-quote. I think it was maybe Tom that said it. This is the low-hanging fruit, or perhaps that was Stephanie Grimaldi. The curriculum is important, but the real magic is in what those classroom teachers are doing and how they're supporting students and they're learning each and every day. So that was a lesson that I think we knew going into this process. It was simply reinforced as we went through this pilot.
Okay. Hi. This just gives you a really brief snapshot of some. Oh, sorry, I'll introduce myself. I'm Lily Dutra. I teach 4th grade at Lincoln, and I am one of the piloteers. This gives you just a brief snapshot of some final products from various modules that were completed. There's some writing pieces, some art pieces, and if you look to the far left, that's actually 2 parents from one of our classrooms that came in to do an activity with the students. They both work in the medical field, so it was a really great way to tie in the information that they learned throughout the module and then have that actual experience in the classroom. And then to the far left is an art project that they did with our art teacher. She was able to look at the module and do kind of a cross-curriculum experience for them as well. And the bottom right just goes into some drawings that they did. I believe this was module 1, and it focused all on what it means to have a great heart. So they focused on the literal meaning and the figurative meaning.
So we were really excited. I'm Erin McCoy, and I teach 4th grade at Lincoln. So we were really excited to be selected as piloteers. So when we were thinking about how the impact of this program on our teaching lives, we thought about what a difference a knowledge building curriculum can make. So we're moving away from teaching isolated skills as we have for many years, and this is really an opportunity to root their learning in meaningful practice. So for example, we were talking about the circulatory story. The students spent a lot of time studying the actual circulatory system, which we were also learning as well. And they read a text that's actually written by a local author from Somerville, Jeff Chekai. And so that's how they studied the literal heart. And then we spent some time reading Love That Dog by Sharon Creech. So then they studied how a figurative great heart. And it's just a brilliant, smart curriculum. And I can speak to that all students are invested in the conversations. They were just so enthusiastic. And I can honestly say that we all, students and teachers, know a lot more about the circulatory system after that unit.
Hi, Meg Bradford, and I also teach 4th grade at Lincoln. I want to talk about the elevated student engagement. So I've been teaching at Lincoln for 20 years, so I've been through a lot of different curriculums and a lot of different materials to teach literacy. And I think I say to Ella all the time, I actually love teaching literacy now. I feel like I know what I'm doing matters with them, and it's making a difference. And I think that's been one of the noticeable impacts that we've had with this curriculum. The students are eagerly raising their hand. They're immersed in compelling topics. We've studied works of art like the Gross Clinic by Dr. Samuel Gross. We were talking about Greek myths and mythology to talk about the many modern words that we use today were embedded in Greek. And the students, you oftentimes have to say, okay, we need to move on. They just want to talk so much about a topic that we're studying. They're eager to share their ideas, whether it's a whole class discussion. We've done small group work. they do something called a tableau, where they'll reenact a scene from a painting or a scene in a book. We're reading The Invention of Hugo Cabret right now, and they've had to reenact a couple scenes. And so it's been really nice and exciting to see their interest. I had a student today say, wow, I actually really like literacy now. And it was such a huge shift from where we started, just because of the rigor of the program that we are doing. Was a little bit of a shock to when we first started, but we are in the routine, and I think it really captures their voices and how they feel about literacy now.
I'm Nicole Gleason. I'm the special educator in 4th grade. So very simply put, it's a game changer. This is the first year that I felt truly a part of the team. One of our goals was that when we were observed, that you wouldn't know who was a special ed teacher and who was the classroom teacher. And I feel like we succeeded in that. The curriculum is so smart and done in such a cohesive way that it allows for us to plan seamlessly. And it's really nice for me because I feel like students who require some extra support are receiving the curriculum on such like an equitable base. And so it's really nice to see that everyone has experienced the same curriculum and is having the same outcomes.
Me again. I was just going to talk about the increased rigor of this curriculum. One of the things that I noticed right off the bat was the students are truly doing the heavy lifting throughout each lesson, and they often are doing it without even realizing. So when it comes down to their end of module tasks, they have all of the knowledge, all of the skills that they've built over time, and they are all so successful. And with that, it is truly all accessible to all students. They are on the same level playing field at all times. And I do feel that Arts and Letters is very intentional, and it's designed to build rigor over time. They engage with complex text and ideas. They are thinking critically and making connections. And lastly, their writing is incredible. We just completed a writing task, and to see where they came from to where they are now, it's remarkable.
I don't want to.
Sorry, you got one.
I don't mean to hog the mics. Just kidding. But I will. So we're also in kindergarten, and what a great lead-in, because writing is also something that we've seen an amazing shift with Arts and Letters. And it's actually what we were going to start with as one of our highlights. But just to echo for 4th grade, that even playing field is a huge part for kindergarten as well. The enthusiasm about the books has been one of our huge, the texts that we have shared with our kiddos has been amazing. I mean, the hardcover books we pull out that they are interacting with and going in to look for evidence and has just been remarkable. The choices, and it's in one of our slides coming up, has been remarkable. They love it. Some of the characters have become almost parts of our classroom. I mean, they'll say, this is just like Julius G., who was the potato king from, and he's almost part of our classroom. But the writing, we were a little concerned, would it be enough because of the frequency of the writing is such a shift from what we were used to. We just finished Module 2, and the writing that they're doing to go along with it's such a gradual release, and it's so scaffolded, but they are just writing, they're farming, they're writing beginning, middle, and end independently, and it's remarkable.
That's
And
astonishing for a
yes,
5 or 6 year
and we've been teaching. I've been teaching kindergarten for 25 years, and I have never seen writing like this before. And the enthusiasm, not to mention the connection. We started with the 5 senses, and early on, they were coming in from the weekend. Memories were, so I was at the apple farm, and I used my sense of sight. I used my sense of smell, and they were just coming back with these connections. Dinner table memories were. Parents were sharing, so they right away were invested in the program. And I agree with someone said it's very intentional. They designed this program very intentionally, and it's very much building, as Ella said, you see the connections from grade levels. We were lucky enough with professional development to see the from K to 5, and seeing what it does from each grade level was a very meaningful professional development for us. And seeing where the writing goes step by step across grade level was really helpful for us. And I know we were concerned about the writing because it didn't start off right away, which was very developmentally appropriate. It wouldn't and it shouldn't. And now here we are in March, and we're so pleased with what they're writing, and it's really exciting to see. So the enthusiasm is a little bit, we have to pull me back a little, so I won't take too much time, but they've learned how to, not only with reading and writing, but they really pay close attention to speaking and listening, which is a huge skill. And the way they give that the time it deserves is so, that's a skill that they have. The upper grades are going to be so impressed with what they have. They know now how to talk, turn and talk in a way that I have never seen, we have never seen kids be able to do.
Stay on topic.
And stay on topic, which is really hard for 5-year-olds. But when you now ask, we're going to work on this speaking and listening goal, kids will say, speak loud enough so others will hear. Stay on topic. Like, it's a skill because it's a very consistent program, and you practice these skills each time. And that's something that is built into the curriculum, and I really respect that has been part of the program too. So those are all skills that they have made part of the program, and in a very even part of the program, as well as reading and writing. Speaking and listening is an important part too. So that's one highlight for us.
And then another highlight is
sorry.
That's okay. I'm Sarah Cummings. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Morocco. Another highlight for us has been the literacy community that it's helped us build of critical thinkers. Like Melissa was mentioning, some of the shared experiences that we've had have transferred over. For example, when we were talking about the 5 senses, we went on a nature walk and they used their 5 senses. And then, out at recess, they'll be doing the same thing and kind of connecting in that way, which has been awesome. The deep connections to characters, you would think they're a part of our classroom, the way that they were reading another book and they're like, oh, that reminds me of Junius G, or that reminds me of this other character. So it's been amazing to see how they take what we're doing in arts and letters and apply it throughout the day as well. And then they have a really deep understanding of the central ideas of text. So it's something that we talk about, but then also they can apply it to the larger theme of the unit. So they can say how each book that we've read connects back to the farm or the 5 senses, which has been, again, for 5-year-olds, just incredible to see.
Hi, I'm Barbara Carolino. I'm a multilingual learner teacher at Morocco, teaching grades K through 5. This year I've had the opportunity to pilot Arts and Letters with kindergarten and EL education with the 2nd grade team at Morocco. Through Arts and Letters, we collectively have had a refreshed approach to building communication skills for our students. Since Arts and Letters is based on content topics, but also the WIDA English language standards, as Melissa mentioned, speaking and listening skills are explicitly taught and repeatedly practiced. And this benefits not only our multilingual learners, but all students. I mean, our kindergartners, our youngest learners are having amazing academic conversations. They are turning and talking respectfully. They are participating in Socratic seminars. And within that, their skills are staying on topic, organizing their thoughts, and expressing their practicing their speaking skills, which translates to all this great writing that we've seen in the classroom. Melissa mentioned their end of unit task today where they wrote beginning, middle, end. Each student in Sarah's class also came up to the front of the room, used the teacher microphone, presented their own story, and read the 3 sentences. This is in kindergarten. And just to see their confidence grow from September to now they're like, oh, give me that microphone. And in September, we're like, one of the speaking skills is to speak with volume, not too loud, not too quietly, so that everyone in the room can hear you. And now, I mean, you rarely have to say that. They're so proud of their work, and that has been one of just the best things about being part of this pilot.
I'm Maria Haynes. I'm another kindergarten teacher at Morocco School. One of the things that we've noticed with the curriculum is it's cross-curricular. They are making connections in every part of our academic day. For example, we studied the painting, an apple painting of Paul Cézanne at the very beginning of the year. And my class walked into the art room, and the art teacher had a different painting by the same artist on the wall. They were going to talk about it. They were working on still lifes. And my students knew who the painter was. They were like, "That's Paul Cézanne." She goes, "How do you know this?" It wasn't just one; it was a handful of children, and we were learning about that in arts and letters. So the connections they're making, the critical thinking skills, the questions. One of the pieces is noticing and wondering. They notice and wonder everywhere they go now, which is amazing. The librarian said there are questions that they have, or the things that they notice about text is just amazing. And the comments that they make about the stories they're reading, they're just so much deeper than I've ever seen before. So we're noticing throughout the entire day those speaking, listening goals being demonstrated everywhere they go. And people are noticing it as well. The SEL teacher said, "I can't believe how well they can turn and talk to each other. When did you teach? They don't usually know this so well, and they stay on topic." And I said, "Oh, we do this every day in arts and letters." But I can say, turn and talk to your rug partner during math, and they do the same thing. They're turning and they're on topic, which again is amazing for anyone, but especially kindergartners. So we have seen so many wonderful things this year. And also just our excitement as teachers, we love teaching this program. Some lessons learned, of course. We've had some bumps. One of the things that we have learned that it was essential for us to plan together as a team. And work through the tricky parts. At first, it was hard. I mean, it's still hard. Melissa says all the time, it's a humbling experience to be a teacher for as many years as I've been. We don't need to talk about that. But it was starting over and learning a whole new program that was tricky to learn and to manage. And we did it as a team, and I feel like that's why we've been so successful. We could lean on each other. We open the door and peek in and, "Oh, you're there too, okay," or "You're as behind as I am," or "Yeah, we're on track," or just to support each other. It's been really nice.
I feel like the kids will go home and say, they check on it. I mean, I'll say, "Hang on 1 second," and you rip the door open. "Okay, good. Miss Cummings and Mrs. Haynes, we check to make sure."
I just think too, you're always learning new things, and sometimes students don't realize that as adults we are still learning. So I keep saying to them and reminding them, "This is new for me too. I'm learning too." Or, "Oh, yesterday I completely made a mistake with that chart. We're going to do it again because I made a mistake. My brain is still growing and learning." So I think it was a great opportunity for the students to see that we are learners as well. Going to pass it back to. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. And with the learning, and Leslie went to this too. One other thing on the lessons learned, we also, as much as we are raving about what they are able to do, we are all very cognizant, too, of our little people. I have a famous saying that we have clothes and shoes older than our children that we teach. And so we dig our heels in on our 5-year-olds, and we still have made it very clear we have to keep it developmentally appropriate. So with that said, our scheduling is very important to us. So moving forward, we have to be very careful that we definitely want to keep this very appropriate, but that we have to make sure we maintain time for that, what's still very appropriate for them. So we have been very careful that we we are so careful with our pilot time, but there's still a lot of play for them because they work very hard and are so invested, but they still get their play time and what they really need as 5-year-olds because, man, they are taking in a lot and loving it. So that's one thing moving forward with our scheduling, that we want to make sure we're making sure that time is still balanced for that important play that they definitely need, because we don't want to wipe them out so much that we want Junior G to still be so important to them next year too. So making sure that all that is still kept in mind for next year moving forward too. And that cognitive downtime, which I think one of the reasons they are so invested is they do get that downtime and they are able to kind of maintain other important parts of the school day, which I think we, as much as we have been so invested and enthusiastic, we have been able to maintain this year too, which was great. So that was just something else. And then we just have some pictures so people can kind of see it in action a little bit. And some of their quotes. Could take a peek.
There's one more that has the books on the next one.
And the next one has some of the books. There's Junius with his potatoes. Everyone. And like someone mentioned about learning, same. There's some of the texts are really pretty interesting about some history. No, there's really some historical people we didn't know about. A lot of nonfiction.
She was a real person, and we all know how to grow potatoes.
Yes, we're growing some right now.
Yeah, we've become urban farmers
Yes.
at Morocco School. We have potatoes, we have pumpkins.
Yep. There is a lot of nonfiction, so that's been really great. So, okay. 5th grade.
Hi, my name is Carly Musto. I teach 5th grade at Ambrose. And I feel like we're probably going to repeat a lot of what was already said because we totally agree with everything that our co-piloters have said. We agree that I feel like our classroom community has grown more than it ever has through this shared knowledge. Similar to what others were saying, we have students talking about these books at recess, at the dinner table, at conferences last week. I had so many parents say, we've never talked about this book or whatever book that my kid's reading as much as we have this year. And it's nice we stay on the same topic for 2 months or so, and so every night at dinner they're talking about the rescue of the Thai boys soccer team from the cave in 2018. That's what our book is about. And so that was just coming up all of the time, which is really lovely. Similar to what a lot of people said, the structured writing, we have seen growth in writing that has made our students so ready for middle school, much more than we've seen in the past. I had a student tell me that he never understood how to write a conclusion paragraph before, but now it all makes sense, which is such a nice win. Oh, I get it now. That's so easy. But we've seen so many opportunities for collaboration and shared experiences. All of the conversations that they've been having, a lot of the speaking and listening goals are really reinforced, and they're doing a really good job. I don't know what else you have to say.
Yeah, just to add on, they feel very competent. It's a really cohesive experience. Everyone is getting the same information, we can share. The discourse is great because everyone's sharing different perspectives, and so students are learning to kind of respectfully agree and disagree. And then their writing is very strong. Like they're able to not only speak clearly, but actually write clearly, which is a little bit different than years past. Yeah.
I'm Rebecca Deaconess, and I'm the special education teacher at Ambrose for grade 5. And one of the really valuable things I think from this program is that all students, like everyone has said, are receiving what they need, but our classroom has students on IEPs, students who are multilingual learners, and there's just so many natural supports embedded in the program, like oral rehearsal, the graphic organizers that exist in the student learn books. And so everyone has the opportunity, especially in writing, to take it to whatever degree they want to. So students who are already feeling successful in their writing can take it further and add additional paragraphs. We've had students who are coming saying, can I make it longer? Like, I know I did the basic requirement, but I have more ideas. I want to go further, which has been great. And then those students who don't feel confident in writing, they have a platform to start from. So we do so much evidence building, evidence finding beforehand that when it comes time for the writing process, they have all of the material, so they don't feel like they're staring at a blank page to begin with. They realize like, oh, I've already done all of the heavy lifting and the hard work. And there's this wonderful painted essay format that starts in 3rd grade and continues throughout. And we've seen success this year, and so it's just hard to imagine by the time these students come in a couple years, having had that exposure already, where their writing will be at that point in time. So it's been really helpful for all students.
I'm Mary Coogan. I co-teach with Rebecca Deaconess. And like she mentioned, we do have a very diverse population of students in our class in terms of IEPs, special education, multi-language learners. And we've just seen really, this is kind of naming everything that everyone already said, but I think you can see that there's a common thread here. Another little piece that we've noticed in 5th grade that's always been a challenge, something that we've grappled with in the past, is the kids just love to fly through a novel and not really, dig deep or think critically. In the way, I think in the last slide, you saw that book with all the tabs sticking out and the annotating. We'll read a piece and then come back and spend so much time on re-examining, and it has really taught the critical thinking skills that I think has been really difficult for us to get to in the past. So just noticing how clever this program is in terms of all the pieces coming together. And trust us, it took time. At first, it was a little bit like, what is this? What exactly are we doing here? It takes about a month to see the light in. Even we questioned everything. Are the kids going to really like this book? This looks like a textbook. They would never pick this up, and it has really proved us wrong along the way. Another piece of this is just the multimodal ways of, so we read about that Thai cave rescue from 2018. Some of you might remember seeing that on the news. But we also learned all about the Karst Cave, and so we're watching a TED Talk about, cave diving. We're reading about limestone and how the water sinks through it, and that's how it flooded. So just in terms of building knowledge, and I think you mentioned that in kindergarten as well, I think we've taken a lot away from it as adults in the process too. Yeah. So just all overall positive experience.
One thing I remember thinking, and you probably have this too, sorry.
It's okay.
No, I remember, didn't you think you probably wouldn't want to read over and over again, and you probably thought your kids wouldn't?
Yes.
And I know people visiting thought that would be a problem. And I'm sure you realize, you're so invested over and over, and it sounds like for even 5th graders, that was something that
absolutely
not a problem. The repetitive reading is what, even for little ones, is what makes the investment, I think.
And it does a really good job of taking what might feel kind of obscure, like a karst cave, and making it a universal. It's emphasizing cultures and communities, and that's been the connections that students are making for the shared experiences is really nice.
One thing that was interesting too that came up in the student surveys was when CES came to visit our classrooms, there was a question, do you enjoy literacy? And I mean, in 5th grade, it's not really socially appropriate for everyone to be like, I enjoy literacy. And everyone's like, no. And then the next question was, are you learning? Do you feel like you're learning from this program? And without a doubt, everyone's like, oh yeah, I feel like I'm learning so much. And so it was really funny for all of us as adults to see they might not outwardly be expressing I enjoy this, but do they feel like they're gaining from this program? And everyone fully endorsed the fact that yes, I'm learning a lot here.
There's a lot of aha moments from the students. Like a student said, oh, I cracked the code. There's a lot of those every day. I'm like, oh, neat, another one. So, yeah.
So I think we're about to move on to a new section. So I just want to pause us for a second. We had 2 student representatives, but the other one had to leave. I realized with the very funny structure of the meeting and the reorganization tonight, normally we'd have a student report. So Ingo, if you do have work to do, you can certainly feel free to go. But if you wanted to take a couple of minutes, you usually share some updates. I don't want to disrespect your time, but I get the sense that you guys might need to head back and do some homework and things. So if you have anything you wanted to share for tonight, happy to do that for 2 minutes now, and then you don't need to feel free to. You can feel free to go for the remainder of the meeting. So sorry, many educator friends, but
I can just quickly share then.
That's great. Thanks. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Life at the WHS has been going smoothly as we approach the end of Q3, which is April 10th. And we want to congratulate the Winchester High School Model UN team. They attended 5 conferences this year, traveling as far as Washington, D.C. and New York City, and brought home 11 awards. The class of 2027 will host its class dance tomorrow in the Dining Commons. In addition, WHS Royals will take place on Sunday, March 29th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. The entry fee is $20. The WHS PFA's 7th annual Senior Banner Drive is now underway, continuing a valued tradition that celebrates our seniors. Finally, seniors interested in pursuing education-related studies in college are encouraged to apply for the Winchester Education Association Scholarship, which is due on April 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ingo. And feel free to go. It's no offense to anyone if you need to get back to your work. So thank you all for your patience.
Thank you.
It was not on our agenda for tonight, but I saw you were prepared, and so I wanted to take
I know all about arts and letters.
So Ingo Lee, Winchester High School junior, amazing representative of the community. So thanks so much. All right, back to you.
Hi, I'm Jen Duma, and I'm a literacy coach at Lincoln and a former 5th grade teacher at Morocco. So I'm having a moment right now. I'm like, last year I was here so excited I got to bring EL and Arts and Letters and share with you that we made those 2 choices for the pilot and where we were going with it. And I remember sitting here letting you know that I was so eager to see Arts and Letters because it was the only program that I'd ever heard of or curriculum that was universally designed. And I'm sitting here tonight just hearing how important that has been, and I'll get emotional for each and every piloteer and person helping out. It's resonating, so I'm so excited. But I've been part of this process for 2 or more years, a member of the ELT, a facilitator of grade level meetings, many of them, a co-teacher, a classroom visitor, and a learner alongside our piloteers. And I wanted to share 3 of many positive moments that I've witnessed this year. Genuinely, it makes me proud to be part of this process and this change for Winchester. The first thing that we haven't talked about yet is grade level meetings. So in the past, there were places where we came together as a grade level and we received information or completed a task together. But this year, something seems to have shifted, and I've felt the change, each month, there's been more of a shift. We've really done some intentional planning, which was informed by teacher feedback. The facilitation has been grounded in adult learning theory and collaborative protocols. So we have tried, Melissa's done a great job looking at both curriculums and pulling out a protocol that we would ask the students to do so that we are doing them as teachers, and for both programs. We've spent a lot of time on understanding the why behind a knowledge building approach and honoring the experiences everyone was having, past, present, piloteers, non-piloteers, and making it really collaborative. And so what I noticed in this shift is that the piloteers in the last 4 or 5 meetings have become the leaders. They are the leaders of these meetings. They are coaching their counterparts who aren't piloting and letting them know, Melissa, last time you were like, it's okay, just it's going to be okay, and volunteering to spread themselves thinner by saying, I'll help you next year. We got this as a team. And we've, as the literacy team facilitating, have been able to step back as they've taken the lead. And I think that's a happy accident of how this all came about. So that's why our piloteers are just a source of such strength. And I don't think we would have had that if we didn't do a year-long pilot. So that has been a huge culture shift. And then I have a whole section on universal design, which you now know about and heard about. But I've been aware about it, since for over 20 years. And I've been part of teams of teachers who have worked tirelessly to design universally for our students. And this, being able to watch arts and letters come alive has totally opened my eyes to what it means to embed universal design. I keep thinking about that, the illustration of the three people who are looking over the fence at the baseball game, and they have their boxes, and they have enough boxes to see over the fence. And I keep thinking about arts and letters takes the fence down. You don't need to hand out boxes, and that's what we've done in the past. We've really worked hard to give you this and give you this, but this is embedded where I'll share, I walked into a fourth grade classroom and I was there to help support because Nicole was in another one, the module assessment. And I walked in and everybody was participating and doing their role independently. And it took me a minute to start to think, how does this look different than, I'm feeling a difference here than I usually feel, and why? What is different? And I realized no one was at another part of the classroom getting something different so that they could express what they know. Everyone was on a Chromebook with their headphones. They could all record themselves for fluency and have multiple opportunities, whatever they needed. They had their articles on the screen, so you had ways to make it bigger, smaller. Students were able to have it read to them, and not everyone knew. Nicole had access to turn on accommodations, and the students had control over those accommodations. They could use voice to text if they needed to. So this was a whole different experience of taking down that fence because they could do this independently. They didn't need a teacher with them to express what they knew. And this is what I know we've all wanted and been working towards, and I saw it, which is really cool. And then finally, that this work takes time. And I know at times we've all wanted to speed up the process or felt a little uncomfortable with going so slow now that we know. But that to effectively put this program together and come together, we need to go slow to go fast. And I think we talked about that last year. And Arts and Letters talks about how their first module is built that way. So you're going slow, learning those protocols so that you can go fast and in kindergarten tell a story with the beginning, middle, and end. And so I think that by trusting our piloteers, investing in the why, and building this community that we've really started to see more of a professional learning community, Winchester is doing this the right way, and it makes me really proud to be part of that.
All right, so we've done a lot of professional development this year. We have launched EL and Arts and Letters with our vendor. We have trained our K-3 educators on administering.
Since a lot of our educators are leaving us, thank you I totally.
Science fair.
Yes, I understand. But we thank you so much. I feel bad for the others that didn't get to hear this, but on behalf of the committee, thank you so much for your work, for coming to present to us, and good luck for those of you at Morocco at the Science Fair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and have a good night. Sorry, Melissa. We lost two other groups. I was like, oh.
So we've done professional development on the DIBELS M-Class administration for all K-3 educators, both with the vendor and internally with our literacy team. We've launched the UFly Project 3 portal for our K-2 educators who can see data in real time from their UFly instruction. It will give them lessons and guidance around how to remediate for students immediately in the next week. We've, as Jen mentioned, used almost all of our grade level meetings with a literacy focus. So I joined less than a year ago, and I've taken almost all of the elementary time for professional learning this year. And I think if you hear from the teachers, that's been okay. We've had classroom visits. So leadership visited classrooms facilitated by both Arts and Letters and EL. Piloteers visited teammates. We had 260 attendances of visitors across schools, which was no small feat. We had college kids subbing. We had our administrative assistants figuring out coverage on the daily. We had teachers reading lessons in advance of going to see them in practice, thoughtfully debriefing after, filling out feedback about how it went that went to CES. And so I think those were really integral in getting everyone to see it in action. We've had teaching PD for Arts and Letters and EL, both with the vendor, on how to refine the practices once they've been in it a little bit. We've done module unpacking at every module, and we'll continue to do that work for the 4th module for our teachers who get there this year. Those have been led by our literacy team internally based on the model of the vendors. We've had faculty meeting where we did an explore board with both programs. Our leaders have been leading, Laurie and Ella, the Shifting the Balance grade 3 to 5 book study to help our educators get prepared for a shift to knowledge building. We have ongoing planning with the pilot materials, and so those have been going with the teams and will continue for the rest of the year. And then we brought back Dr. Stephanie Grimaldi for March, and she followed up on the initial part of the Science of Reading PD and moving us towards a knowledge building curriculum, which had great feedback from all of our educators who attended. So as you can see, we've had a very busy literacy year, piloting and growing and learning alongside one another. And that's just the beginning.
And we are looking forward to taking all the lessons that we learned and planning very thoughtfully, mindfully, what next year will look like as we take this small pilot and scale it up to K through 5. So we're excited because we have the support, we have the teams who are eager to share their experiences with one another. So we are set up for success. And I just want to stop and say that having Melissa on our team this year has been nothing but exceptional. She has been working so much behind the scenes, orchestrating all of this to make it happen, and she makes it look so easy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yes, she's getting used to these rounds of applause.
And they make me turn red. But we still have quite a bit of work to do. And so as you can see, we have 3 grade level meetings left for this year. We will be working with Arts and Letters and the ELT 2.0 and the literacy team to plan those. But we will be looking at the Arts and Letters lessons, getting our educators ready so that when we have professional development at the end of the school year in June, they feel like they've got a little bit of understanding to enter that PD. So as you can see, we have 3 of those. We will be opening classrooms again so that all educators can go see the Piloteer classrooms for Arts and Letters specifically in action, because before their lens was, how do these compare and how will they fit? Now they know that we're going in this direction. They're going to start be thinking about, how does this look in my classroom when I implement this next year? And then we also have coaching specific PD in June that we're hoping to do with our literacy team so that they can help support educators on their journey. On the final PD day, we have a variety of PD offerings planned. So all educators will get an intro to Arts and Letters as well as time to unpack the first module and lesson plan. And that will be differentiated by grade level so that they're getting time with their specific grade level teams and planning guidance from Arts and Letters directly around how to support those grade levels. Our Piloteers need something a little bit different. They've done that work. And so our hope is that on that same day, our Piloteers from grades K to 2 will learn how to use a new resource that we did not have access to this year. So they'll be focused on using geodes, and then the afternoon will be deepening their learning to support all learners. Our piloteers in grades 3 to 5 will have a different focus, also from arts and letters. They will focus on writing and then also supporting all learners. There are GEOTs for grade 3, but arts and letters PD model to deliver that doesn't fit with this day or this structure, so we're going to offer that at a different time. So our hope is that we have a variety of options for all our educators to get professional learning that will support them where they're at. We will also be taking into consideration that our EL piloteers went through an entire year of professional development and learning with a new program. They will be better poised, we believe, to take on arts and letters, but it will still be a new program to them. And so we're working with the vendors to see how do we help like merge that, because they'll have a little bit more knowledge to start with. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. In August, presumably we'll have some new teachers who will come on board. They will need professional development. As we did last year, our hope is that we will be able to provide a refresher PD for all educators in terms of a half day so that they feel ready to hit the ground running and teach students using these new materials. In October, we'll have a check-in with arts and letters with our leaders. We're hoping to do that same Teach PD that we offered to teachers this year. The feedback about that was phenomenal from arts and letters, and so our teachers really valued that. We want to offer that to all teachers who are implementing next year. And then ongoing module unpacking. They will offer virtual learning sessions for teachers who need it. This year, they were very responsive and had a Q&A. So anytime a teacher had a question, they populated it into a document, and within every week, they checked that and responded to teachers' questions. So arts and letters were super responsive in that way. And then as a district and ELT, we'll continue to think about what do grade level meetings look like to continue to grow both our pilot educators, who will be slightly ahead of the curve, and all of our implementing educators. And we do still have some next steps, as if that didn't sound like enough. We need to figure out our assessments for next year, now that we know which program we're using and the tools that we have in terms of MClass and some of our other assessments. Do we have the right suite of assessments to drive instruction, to progress monitor, to screen? So ELT 2.0, the literacy team, and the school leaders, we're all working together to figure out what that looks like for next year for all our students, K to 5. And then we'll also be thinking about some guidance for differentiation. So unlike EL, Arts and Letters does not provide any guidance for the second hour of differentiated literacy instruction. So in Winchester, we're going to call that the literacy lab block, or the Lit Lab. Every grade will have an hour of that, and what will happen in that grade will vary depending on the grade, but that's where our differentiation will happen. Arts and Letters offers a prologue lesson for multilingual students or students with IEPs or any student with needing language support, so that will be an opportunity for that to be delivered. Small group, independent reading, book clubs, fluency practice, U-Fly reteaching, word study, word work, all of that will happen where students are in that differentiation block, which we're calling Lit Lab. So thank you. So we still have work to do, but again, ELT 2.0, the literacy team, and the leaders are all working to figure out how does this support our teachers for next year, give them some guidance around what that should look like, without also overwhelming them as they launch an entire new program. So we'll be building off of the wonderful things they're already doing. And then Laurie and I will be back on the circuit tour, we like to call it. We'll be visiting each school for caregiver coffees to teach families and caregivers about the new program, what it involves, what they might be seeing when their children come home next year. We'll also have a webinar one evening to be determined to sort of help families get ready, and then again, as needed, we'll repeat that in the fall. And so that's a lot of information.
Thank you all very much for this presentation. It's obviously the summative assessment of a work of 2.5 years now. So we really appreciate all of the work you've done. And I'm going to open it up to committee members for questions, but also be mindful of the fact that, if you have specific questions for the educators, I think, we can definitely collect them and send them out through the teams to get them back. But for those of you that are not at mics, it might help to come to a mic so that if there's a question that you can help answer, that would be great. So I will go last. So.
You want to go first? Yeah.
All right. And we should officially welcome Mr. Belair to the committee. It's his first meeting with us, but look forward to having your many contributions over the 3 years to come. So take it away.
Thanks. I want to start just by saying congratulations. Like, without you guys and the work of your teachers, Arts and Letters is just ink on paper, but you guys are the ones who help breathe it to life, and hearing from students about how engaged they are, hearing from teachers about how energized they are and their students are as well. Like, you guys have so much to feel good about, and I'm really excited to be advocating to continue this work at town meeting later this spring, so that you guys have the support that you need to make sure more students have access to the great curriculum that you guys have been implementing. My question is specifically related to like progress monitoring and assessments, which was kind of talked about in terms of next steps, but I was just curious how that kind of fits in with Arts and Letters specifically, and like what the frequency might look like for identifying students for intervention. If you could share more about that.
So currently we're using Dibble's M-Class K-3 to benchmark students 3 times a year. So middle of year, end of year, beginning of year. And then we are progress monitoring students who are flagged as at risk depending on where they flag. So if they have a red composite or a red subsection, we might be progress monitoring them every 10 days, instructional days. And for our students who are in the yellow, we are progress monitoring every 20 days. That's our at-risk screener. We're also using a phonics decoding inventory 3 times a year until students are reading more traditional text to diagnose and pinpoint specifically where they're at in their phonics and phonemic awareness acquisition. Now that we've named Arts and Letters has listening comprehension tasks that go K to 2, and then reading comprehension tasks that go 3 to 5. They also have content, so they're assessing what the kids are learning alongside their literacy skills. They have fluency checks, as we heard, where kids are recording themselves as part of that. And they also have mid-unit assessments and end-of-module assessments. And so Arts and Letters is unique in every time they give an assessment to the whole class, there is both a digital platform to analyze the data, or they could do it on paper. Same for kids. They could take it digitally or on paper. Teachers have been playing with the variety of ways of that this year, as young as first grade. Kindergarten has stuck to not digital for this year. And so with that in Arts and Letters, they then recommend, based on the scoring and the accuracy, what to reteach the next day. Wow. So there is some guidance around looking at the data and figuring out like which students might need a more intensive reteach versus which students might need a less intensive reteach. But there is an instructional day planned as part of that to do that next day. So we as a team are looking at like, do we have the right tools? Do we have any gaps in assessments that we think we still need? Are we assessing at the right intervals? And right now figuring out how do the tools we use merge with Arts and Letters. So we're sort of still in a discovery stage for that.
Awesome, thank you.
You want to go, Tom? I just have a couple because John took most of them.
Oh, yeah, I can go quickly. Excuse me, fighting a little bit of a cold here too. I also would love to congratulate all of you. This is really wonderful. It's clear that this is a very high quality program, and so I'm very excited to see that. Particularly I love how they're learning about the Thai cave rescue and other relatively contemporary examples of things. It's super exciting. I also loved the what I describe as the agency, the joy that the team coalescing amongst all of you guys, and the capacity building that we're seeing as a result of that, and this is building towards a question area, but the students, the enthusiasm and the confidence that they're building as well. As the father of a middle and high schooler, I'm a little bit jealous because my kids would clearly have benefited from this. But I was curious. I heard Rebecca Deaconess talking about how some kids are really excited and they're doing extra paragraphs, they're doing extra work, and I heard one of you talking about how what I would describe coming from sort of a technology world as personalized learning, and about how people are able to have the right level, whether it's the sports, for being able to listen to something or being able to dictate or otherwise. And I was curious, I guess my question was around, I would just love to so I love everything you're doing. I'm really excited for where we're going. I'd love to just, if it's possible, to paint a picture a little bit of, you had talked about how the kids who need additional support are no longer sort of outed in the room as needing additional support. And I was just kind of curious what it looks like, when I get a kid who's doing a little extra work, or maybe they're using the tools that the Chromebook enables. But I was just curious, what does it look like when there's someone who really isn't getting it, and like, how do you make that work, the magic?
It is magical, I will tell you. When we first started this journey and I walked into a classroom with knowledge building and everybody had the same text, I went home so upset, because I had a difficulty after we spent so many years differentiating and meeting kids' individual needs. I was frightened by it. I thought, are we going backward? Like, I had to really be reflective. And if you could see the 5th grade at Ambrose, where Rebecca teaches, it is like unimaginable, because all of the kids in that room, despite having the exact same text, are in it, and they know what they need individually. And the conversations, it's so, and I hate to use the Socratic again, but to paint a picture, I will walk in and they'll have a pause where the teacher stops reading and say, let's reflect on that. And kids aren't raising their hands anymore. They're actually joining in the conversation, and one will say to the other, well, to piggyback off of that, and if you're in it, you feel like you're in this college classroom. Like, I have to walk out scratching my head. I'm like, I don't even know if I understood that text to the level that they did. And so there are no students in that room that look different, or they're all contributing in such a way that I want you to come and see it, and I would love for you to come and see it, because it's something that you can't imagine happens, but it does.
Yeah.
And it's seamless, and then you don't know, who needs support. But to Melissa, when you were talking about the formative assessments, teachers are still in this, and they know, did he really understand by that comment? Let me pull them over and have a quick conversation. Does, Harry need a little bit more? Let me have a sidebar with him. So that stuff it's still happening in the classroom, but it's just a different feeling, and I really welcome you to come, because you will be in awe.
That'd be great.
I can add in just a little bit is, I think a lot of the teachers talked about the intentionality. And so the way it was designed, with the intention of having a variety of students in your room, there are the prologue lessons, and those are what you're front loading for kids that we didn't have before. So they're asking for help, and you don't need to say who needs help, because you've proactively given it to them. There are multiple media, so to start to build that background knowledge that they need to have comprehension stick, they're doing that with videos, with read alouds. Oftentimes it's a teacher read aloud in the beginning. and then they're revisiting so often that as they're building their language skills and their vocabulary, they are accessing texts that teachers might not have given them before because it was such a reach. But now, because we have front loaded and they have had so many opportunities to talk about it and do the oral language, and we have to remember all those kids have strengths. Mm-hmm. They have so many strengths, and so we're building off of those. And it is something where Arts and Letters does formative assessments every day. There's a task every day the teacher could look at that the students, whether it's oral or in writing, they can see each day, did they get what they were supposed to know or show? And then during that, what we're calling lit lab. So right now, I know our fourth grade does that, and that's where the differentiation happens. So I know that's when our interventionist goes in, and she's doing more work with morphology with some students. Other students are in book clubs. Other students are working on some typing skills, but they're doing some differentiating there, and that's when we're front loading for the next day. So instead of kids feeling like I don't have it or I'm behind, they're actually feeling more confident going in. So we've flipped it.
One of the things I love is, what I think I'm hearing is that by offering a lot of different sort of modes of information, it's not necessarily that I'm ahead of or behind you. I might just learn differently than you do. And so having it visually and audio and in different groups and things, helps teach the different personality styles and learning styles too.
Right, that multimodal, it's embedded so well. Like one day I walked in and there was an Indigenous person on the video telling us about the story. And so some kids could access that, some were reading it. But the conversations are so rich and they're so different. It really is exciting.
And it is what we tried to do before.
Right.
It's exactly what we tried to do before, but you can't do it alone. And so now this is a time where it's so cohesive and you can plan with your colleagues that you are ahead of it. And that's what I meant before when I said I've been part of teams and we've tried, and we have universally designed things, but we've universally designed a lesson or an assessment or maybe a week long, because to thread it vertically and horizontally, I'm still in awe of how they did it. I think Erin said it best in one of our debriefs. She would say, I have an idea for a lesson, or I have something that would tie into this really well. And she said, then I'd look a couple lessons ahead and, oh, it was already there. And she's like, I have to remember, really smart people wrote this. and I just have to trust in the program and go through it the first year. And also teachers are making their decisions. We did a visit at Lincoln in the 4 different rooms, and one teacher from Morocco came up and said, well, what do you do for the students that can't decode this? And in one particular classroom, people were partner reading because everybody was able to access. In the other one, the teacher did it as a read aloud. And so I just walked over to him. I was like, that's what you can do as the teacher. You get to make the instructional decisions.
Right.
So that's still there for them.
And just to add on, it's what we've been doing and trying to do, but this common experience of unpacking a brand new curriculum together, all the different roles. So through the special ed role, through the ML role, through the literacy team role, and general ed, we're all working on the same curriculum, and we feel comfortable about it. We're getting the PD, we're collaborating with one another. So what that allows is all of these activities, multimodal, showing variety of ways, choice and voice, but people have the confidence, and it's more seamless in the co-teaching. So I loved what Nicole said. Their goal this year was walk in, and I dare you to name who the general ed and who the special ed is. Well, that's intentional, and the kids feel that. So that certainly changes the dynamic and the risk-taking of all the young learners in that room, too, because those supports aren't taboo. No, we're here together, we're here to learn together, and we've got the tools to do it.
Well, I'm super excited. This is definitely educational excellence, and that's Winchester, so
Yeah.
hand it back to Stephanie.
Thanks. So My son, who may or may not have been here, but he would deny it, participated in the Arts and Letters pilot at Ambrose. And when a new module was introduced, he came home and spoke to me, which this is new, other than, saying school was fine, end of conversation. He turns to me and he said, "Mom, do you think that you can find joy in an extreme setting? For example, if you had to struggle to survive on the surface of Venus, do you think that you can still find joy?" And I'm like, this has to be Arts and Letters thing, because I am just blown away by the level of engagement and the complexity of the conversations that we had at home. So thank you, Arts and Letters. I was rooting for you in the background, and I'm really glad that we came to this conclusion. And that started from the beginning of the year. And I think that it's so hard to capture anyone's attention, let alone children. And Arts and Letters found some great text that does captivate their attention, that they find interesting, and that they're engaging in. So I'm very happy that where we landed. So yes, Arts and Letters. I was rooting for you. I'm really glad that I know one of the kindergarten teachers said that they still want to prioritize play. And I do think that though this is rigorous and it's going to involve a lot of demands on the schedule, I do think that that's super important, K to 5, to find those opportunities for recess and to get those wiggles out. Because I know it's a dedicated module. I think it's like an hour and a half or 2-hour blocks, right, that are dedicated. So it's a 1-hour block.
1 hour block, and then we also have Lit Lab, but they are not always back to back.
Excellent. Okay, good.
In fact, most often we asked actually teachers which they preferred, but they never are sitting for. They're never sitting for 1 hour.
Okay.
Even within the 1 hour, there's movement, there's different variety of tasks. They're going from the carpet to their desk, to their small groups, to their writing, back to the carpet. So even in the 1 hour, there's constant movement, but they're never doing 2 hours of literacy in a row.
Great, because again, my experience was with my N of 1 was of upper elementary and the way that Arts and Letters interacts with a 5th grader. I was curious how it impacts lower elementary. And the one thing that I really enjoyed seeing, and a lot of other parents that were involved in pilot classrooms, is that it involved paper and pencil, even for the 5th graders, and not more Chromebook time. I think that was one thing that was really, and I loved getting that workbook, the first module. That workbook came home and we were able to flip through it, and I saw the graphic organizer, and the writing is phenomenal. Phenomenal, the way that he's able to be a more confident writer just by the tools that Arts and Letters gave him, so I really appreciated that. I did have a question, this may be for Lori and Melissa. There was a survey that went around to staff, survey that went around to parents. What was some of the feedback from the parent survey? And I filled it out, but I'm just curious what some of the themes that were coming out of there. You want to take that?
Yeah. So overwhelmingly, there was good feedback both around the knowledge building approaches. All families felt that both curriculum offered that. The family and caregiver surveys also favored Arts and Letters. They also talked about their children sometimes say that literacy is not joyful. And as you heard from the 5th grade team, when CES came and did their pieces, almost universally K through 5, because I attended all of those, they would ask them, thumbs up if you find literacy joyful. And there would be like some thumbs up, some thumbs down, sideways, lots of thumbs down. Is it making you a better reader and writer? So we did ask the older students, like, what would joyful literacy actually look like? Because I was curious to see, like, what children define that as. And they were not able to really articulate what joyful literacy is. So I think it's as joyful as it's going to get. I mean, you also saw...
Deal with it.
You also saw in the video the students who, as I was interviewing them to put these clips together, I'd say, remember when you're happy and joyful about something, like you smile and you might talk with a lighter voice, and you saw them and they'd be like, it was the best book I've ever read. I love this curriculum. So I think those were some of the things that came out in the family and caregiver surveys where, are their students really enjoying the program? But universally, they said that the kids were talking more about the programs at home, that they were bringing the topics to their families, that they were building the knowledge, which is what this approach was intended to do, and that their students were feeling successful in literacy. And so from the family and caregiver perspective, those survey responses were really powerful. And the students were mixed. And their survey results were stronger than the original groups, but those original groups were also earlier in the year, and so they had more experience under their belt when they submitted the surveys later. And the kindergarten kids, they actually weren't interviewed until the later and they were all very much enjoying their experiences, in both programs.
Great. And then from those results as well, we learned we can do a better job with the communication. So now that everyone's going to be there, what does that look like? And as an ELT 2.0, we've been really making a concerted effort of what does that look like so it is more consistent as we move forward.
Excellent. And Arts and Letters does have a family component, so there will be an introduction letter for all families, and that will be part of our, world tour presentations. But then also at the start of every module for each grade, there is a family and caregiver letter that can go home to families about what topic they're learning, what the writing will look like, things you can do at home, and that's available in 15 different languages already.
Beautiful.
And the report, just so everyone knows as well, once this is all official here, tomorrow we'll post it on the CES report so everyone can dive into the data and see the feedback.
My last question is, how often are the modules updated by Arts and Letters, right? So every year, is the 5th grade at Ambrose going to be reading all 13 and about the surface of Venus, or does that change, and is that all that supporting material is sent to us? What goes, do we know?
They are so new in where they're at right now. They've been responsive when we have questions about content, feedback about, the 5th graders don't particularly think the paper that the Learn book is written on is very nice.
It's too flimsy. I heard that when you erase it, it rips. I know all of, yep.
So they have been listening to our feedback. They have an avenue to submit feedback, but in terms of changing the actual content and text, unless they do another edition, we don't know what that will look like yet.
Okay.
So it will remain the same materials. And all of these companies are growing. So they are working now on those supplemental materials so that we are making sure we have all the resources for the many different learners that we interact with each day.
And when those updates, when they happen, is that part of our subscription, if you will, or is that going to require,
additional funding? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other piece is when they do those kind of updates, they have to be very intentional about how they're updating it, because if you think about, your child experienced 5th grade at the Ambrose and learned about the Nez Perce, but we were doing like fry bread in kindergarten. And so not only are they common across, but the topics are weaving intentionally to get kids to be able to understand that.
Like the Nez Perce at 5th grade.
Exactly. Right. And so when they make adjustments, they've got to make adjustments everywhere along the way so that that thread continues and spirals and builds the background as the kids progress through the grades.
Great. Well, thank you. Over to you, Dr. Chair.
Just call me Tim. Thank you so much for all of your work. I think I have three questions. So the first will be, I just want to know, because we've talked about sort of a 10-year time horizon. So Dr. Elenema and Ms. Kirby, when was it that we last updated our literacy curriculum? Because I've had people ask me that question, and I just want to give people a sense, because I think we're sort of past the time that we normally would, but there were a lot of years of COVID and things in the meantime. So do you all remember when the last time we had a...
So I would say prior to this program, we used multiple programs and multiple pieces. So UFly, like before we started any of this work, like UFly was our most recent addition.
Right.
And prior to the CES report, we were, all but 2 of our elementary classrooms were using UFly. So that was our most recent update to that piece.
Yep.
But as you know from all these discussions, we were never able to afford one consistent program. Right. So there were pieces and a lot of decisions that were up to classroom teachers and having to put all that stuff together themselves. So we used, certainly Lucy Hawkins was the main program that we used around some of the components of early literacy. And lost all track of time and space since the pandemic, but I
Right.
think the most recent was just an updated version of that, probably right pre-pandemic, but it
Okay.
was very similar to what we had before.
But it
So
goes
it's been
back.
Yeah, it's been a long, it went back before I came, so
Okay.
this is my
Right.
14th year. So,
So it was really a
and it's
long.
been a really long time since we had the opportunity to even examine and say, what should we be doing and what could we, our prior budget was $10,000 for all the elementary. So you can imagine how far that went.
Yeah.
So that, we never even dug into the work that everybody's been doing over the past.
So I think what I want to highlight is this is a pretty monumental step for us. And I'm so excited to hear about the tremendous amount of preparation that's gone into rolling this out, both with the piloteers this year as well as the preparation that's happening at the end of this year in terms of professional learning, as well as the beginning of next year to give this a really strong start. Because the feedback that I've heard, which sounds like it goes even before you, is that maybe even with those curricular pieces, we didn't have the strongest start in terms of being able to fund professional learning opportunities and timing for professional learning opportunities. And as we all know, those things have downstream effects that can last years. So that's my first thing. My second one is actually around sort of, and this goes back to an experience I had when I was working in Boston, where we actually, so I went out, one of my jobs, I was the data analyst for the curriculum and instruction department. So one of my jobs was to go out and do focus groups with our teachers at the end of an academic year to sort of get a sense of. So it was, we had just rolled out Reading Street. So for those of you that have been around in education for a while, from Pearson, which, does not really exist anymore. And we had a lot of teachers who were still using curricular components that we'd used in the past. So I guess my question is, to those of you that are on the sort of leadership teams, both at the school level as well as at the district level, like how are we going to handle those who have their way of doing things? It's something they've established over a period of time. And, this new thing might be a surprise to them, something they're somewhat resistant to, trying to still integrate approaches from an old curriculum, especially with the way you're describing it as being universally designed and threaded, like that. How are we going to address those issues in the classroom? Because it is a monumental thing to change curriculum after such a long period of doing something different.
I just want to say that that's actually come up in some of the grade level meetings, and it's actually been the piloteers who have started to say, yes, you're going to have to let go of some of the things we've done before, like, the snow globe story and things like that. But don't worry. Like Melissa Testa was like, don't worry. It's going to be okay. So I know that it's something that's on their mind already, and piloteers have started to take the lead in helping their colleagues.
That's great.
Make that transition. So.
And that's going to be what really pulls us together, right? It really is that sense of community. And it's all of us understanding all of the different nuances and complexities and elements of the programs, because we're in and out of the classrooms every single day. And that's going to provide the consistency. And then first and foremost, we know it's the PD is your magic bullet. So it's taking the time that we have and really being very mindful and intentional about how we spend it. And we talk about this all the time. And it is not just the leaders, it is opening it up to the groups, the people that are living it each day. What worked, what didn't, how do we move forward to make sure that we are supporting all? Because there are those 1%ers out there. But I will say, if there's anyone surprised, we got bigger problems out there.
Right.
Everyone knows.
Exactly.
And the senior teacher knows.
I also think,
I was just going to say, the bigger thing, resoundingly, this is what teachers asked for. And we heard it so loud and so clear from almost 100% of them. So they are in it, and they wanted this, so they are so willing to work together and collaborate, and they're very excited about it.
I mean, they even came up with a piloteer hotline. That's something.
That's amazing.
I also like the Lit Lab. I love the Lit Lab name. I hope that's going to stick. That's
sure.
definitely going to stick.
That's amazing.
I think, too, we also have a gift of having a literacy team, and so our literacy specialists will be integral in helping to be partners in this learning and to lift the practice of all our educators alongside them in this journey. And so we have a great curriculum now. We've got a great literacy team, and we have fantastic teachers. So I think that's the perfect recipe for success.
That's great.
I want to just add that I feel like we've done a lot of knowledge building about knowledge building. So for the past 2 years, there's been a lot of underlying PD that makes, that now people are like, I get it. I understand what this will be like. And I think one of the biggest things that we did this year that really shifted was the opportunity that we gave to educators to go visit other classrooms. We say that every year. Oh, go visit. We love for you to visit. But to coordinate it and organize it, it's hard for us to organize, but it's also, teachers don't really want to be out of their classroom. They don't want to plan, like, lesson plans. They don't want to leave their kids.
Right.
But we gave them the permission to say, like, I know you'll be gone, but they're going to be in good hands, and it's for the greater good after. And seeing the Piloteers in action, seeing the joy from the kids, seeing the joy from the Piloteers, seeing what it actually means. Because I was like you, Andrea, when I remember last year someone was like, oh, well, you just reread the same book. I'm like, reread the same book, like, oh my goodness. And now I'm like, you're gonna reread the same book. And it's so exciting. And you see it, and it comes to life, and now we're like, I get it. So I think I think most people are ready. Most people wanted it, even though they didn't quite understand it. And I think now they understand it more because we've built their knowledge.
And people have been trusting and putting it out there, like, when am I going to teach main idea?
Right.
Like, when am I going to teach these? What am I going to be teaching if I'm not teaching these skills?
Right.
And that's where I think for them to come out and say that, that's huge. That's a whole culture shift.
Yeah.
And that's where I've seen the Piloteers go in and, like, oh, but they will get it, and you're going to see them be able to think critically about the books because we're modeling it and doing it every day. So yes, I agree. There are some people that are still nervous out there, maybe because they do have something that they feel has worked for them, but they're willing to get on board because they trust their peers.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's great to hear. Yeah, because obviously, the CES report was something that we grappled with a lot at this table, and the cultural piece is a huge part of the shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing something, that's why I asked my first question, right? We're doing something that is vastly different from what we've done in the past, and trying to be joyful about rolling that out district-wide in a planful way, and that's a phenomenal shift. So my last question is actually to Mr. Bellaire's point about assessment. Do you feel like, and this is mostly for Ms. Newell, I guess, do you feel like you have the support that you need in terms of assessment all the way from K up to 5, right, with this curriculum? Because I think some of the feedback we've heard from parents is that, there's sort of some unevenness around assessment from 3 to 5, and, like, once they sort of age out of dibbles, and, like, what is it that I tangibly have as information from my student's teacher, in the upper grades, upper elementary grades, that shows that they're doing okay, right? The parents are always asking us, like, well, how do we know they're doing okay, right? And so that's, I think, do you feel like the curriculum provides enough in terms of assessment that you're able to sort of confidently have educators provide those pieces of feedback to the parents on how their kids are doing? Or do you think we still have work to do, and that's going to be one of the focuses of year 3?
The second option. I think we are learning if we have the right tools at all of the grades. We're learning, do we get the right information from the curriculum embedded assessments, and do we have enough information to triangulate and make sure we're getting a really accurate picture of kids? Because I don't want any one measure to be the story that's being told about a student. And so, like Dibbles is a screener to determine at risk, we don't want that to be the end all be all.
Correct.
Our curriculum embedded assessments are one piece of what they're getting. We don't want that to be the end all be all. Our decoding inventories are helping us dig deeper, so we just want to make sure that we're really thoughtful about which tools we're using. And so I don't think we have a clear picture yet if we've got all the right pieces.
Okay.
But that is something the team is all working on to get us closer for next year, and then again, to refine that and see where we're at the following year, because I think that always needs to be iterative.
And as you're going to the coffees and making your rounds, I'm assuming in the fall, right? That's when you're going to start conversations with different.
Oh no, we got a spring tour coming.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
You didn't read my newsletter today. Date is.
It's been a busy day. But that's something that I know parents are concerned about and would love to hear more about. So as your as part of your world tour, if that could be part of the greatest hits, that would be great. If you can include them in that conversation.
On a loop.
I love it.
And keep saying, we're still working to refine this. What you see is, as much as I don't remember there was a really great comment about it takes. Were you the one? It takes a long time to
go. You have to go slow to go fast.
You have to go slow to go fast. There we go. And that, I think, still continues to be a message that we need to send out to families, because I think we get a lot of emails, right, saying this thing happened and, I was uncomfortable about that. And so what is it that you're doing at the district level? Can you explain to us? And, this year the answer was, we're in the middle of a pilot year and we have a lot going on right now. You may see a whole variety of things, particularly in the upper elementary grades, because, we had some UFLAG, DIPPLES, things going on at the lower elementary grades. But I think it's just continuing to message that to families so that they feel confidence in what we're doing, because I think we all at this table see the planful work that's going on, but this is not, as much as we want this to be a celebration, it's awesome we got to this point, it doesn't mean the work's over, so.
And I think that's something to celebrate
Yes.
in our district, is that we're willing to say now, we are always looking to improve, and it's not just, this is how we're doing it.
Right.
We've been doing that throughout this year, even with just the timeline of the assessments that we had, while also looking at what other assessments do we need. And I think that that's a win right now, because in the past, we didn't have such a collective group working towards always trying to improve and knowing we didn't.
I'm going to use that as a chance to say three things. First of all, three.
Always three.
It's always three. I'm copying the chair now. I got a whole other level of expectations to meet. I want to thank all of you. I don't think people understand when you say trying to make the visits happen, what that really looks like and what that really means. So the work that you do and did through these last 2 years in trying to get people the release time and the time that they needed to come together is probably not as clear and visible as it should be, because it could never have happened without that. I also just want to point out, I think we got a great hire with Melissa Newell. I think that people haven't really had a chance to get to hear from her yet. So what a great way to really come and for this group and publicly to hear from you. You've been here before, but to be able to be on this end of this process, and we really just appreciate your knowledge, not just about literacy is clear, but your knowledge about program implementation and school districts and schools and what it takes to do it. And you were doing it 27 schools in Lowell, so that must feel a little bit better to be at 5. But I mean, I think we're just super fortunate to have you on board. And I also want to thank Ms. Kirby, because there's no question the amount of time that you have spent and the back and forth, and I think we're doing well, making progress, and then we're reacting and trying to deal with something, and your patience and willingness to go along with all of this and take the lead and make it happen and tell me what I need to do it has made all the difference. So, and Jen, picking up all the things that Lori wasn't able to get to, because that's what she was doing, and the team has just been incredible, and I that won't get said a lot. And I also wanted one more thing. I was just thinking about, and I look back to 24, about where we were, and thinking about this whole comment of you got to go slow to go fast. The pressure that this committee, some of you longer than others, was under to just put in a program, sitting in this room and hearing understandably frustrated and scared parents tell us, just put in a program, what are you going to put it in? The fact that you withstood all that to do it right, as somebody else said, made all the difference. And that needs to be celebrated and understood and appreciated, because that was not easy. So thank you to all of you for your support, because it is hard in the face of where we were to really say, you know what, we really need to do this right. And it's clear that it was done correctly, and buying that time and having that time was the right way to do it, but it was not the easy way to do it. So thank you.
All right, great. So Before you all go, I'm going to monopolize maybe 2 more minutes of your time. I think we have a couple of motions that the chair would be happy to accept for moving forward with this process.
I move that the school committee accept the Elementary Literacy Team 2.0 report and approve the adoption of the recommended literacy program, Arts and Letters, to further support the separate article for implementation for the 2026-2027 school year submitted for town meeting consideration.
All right, is there a second? All right, maybe, I feel like we need to take a roll call vote because this is pretty monumental.
Is Karen still on, by the way?
She is not, unfortunately, still with us, which means we don't technically have to take a roll call vote, but this feels like a big one. So Mr. Hopcroft?
Aye.
Mr. Belair? Aye. Ms. Minyarji?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and it's unanimously adopted. Thank you all so much. For those that have been following along at home, that means that we will be going to town meeting to ask for the funding for this implementation in the fall, regardless of what else is happening. So thank you so much for your partnership with us in this process, for your extra time today, and we look forward to more great things ahead. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, I teared up a couple of times.
I know. I know. So given the fact that I think we have at least one representative here who may be waiting for our consent agenda, I would propose with the consent of my fellow committee members that we jump ahead to the consent agenda and actually, do you want me to? Yeah, if Ms. Van der Riede would like to join us at the table for a few minutes. I know that you are here for one of the items on our consent agenda.
Do you have the chart of the grants?
Mr. Marin, I don't control though I sit up here, I don't control any of the technology. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
When we're waiting for that, I do have another announcement. Today was a very exciting day for WIFI. We surprised the winners of the 2026 Sarah Swager Award at their schools, and I'll just announce that we had 3 winners this year. Susan DiNapoli at Morocco, John Gill at McCall, and Anna Paradise here at Winchester High School. So we will have a ceremony for them on May 6th at 3:30 in the afternoon at the Sanborn House. You're all invited. It's very exciting. It's just a wonderful day to walk in and surprise these people, and lots of happy tears. So. With that, you have all received the list of grants that we would like to submit for your approval. The total being for $53,875. There's a wide range, so there's some professional development, some reoccurring grants like AuthorFest, which has been scheduled for October 15th, this next year.
Best day of the year, Maggie.
Best day, my
Absolutely.
favorite day
I was going
of
to
the year.
say it. It is my favorite day of the year.
I'll try not to mess it up again this year.
I would really
College
appreciate
school
if
off.
school can
Okay,
be
all
in
right.
session
Okay.
on that day this year.
I will make my best effort.
Quintessential
Hope that
lemon
there
to
will be
lemonade, though.
no-
Thank you, Whiffy.
No labs.
That was
Emergency laboratory.
Whiffy came to the rescue,
Closures.
so thank you.
Yes. Otherwise, I will literally just make pizza or peanut butter, like not sun butter and jelly sandwiches
Said
for
every parent
child.
in Winchester. Said every
who's to be
parent.
in the district.
We have a
but-
plan now.
Yes. But I know this meeting has gone very long, so I don't need to go through all of these, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Belair.
Maggie, thank you so much. This is awesome. We're really grateful for WIFI's support in these activities. Could you share a little bit more about the Author Fest amount? Like, is that like how does that compare to prior years, and like how many authors? Yeah, or what grade levels?
So yes, most of the money goes to the elementary schools. We have the most authors there. Usually, I had it open, but it's disappeared. Usually it's about 16 authors at the elementary school level. We get one for the entire middle school. This coming year, it will be Newbery Award winner Rajani LaRocca. She's come before, so she's coming again. She presents to each grade.
Love that.
One presentation to each of the grades. And then high school is a slightly different story because scheduling and everything. So we just bring one author in, and it works differently, but yes. So the amount of $25,000 is the cost for most of the cost for the authors and illustrators. We then also get a grant or a gift from Winchester Community Savings Bank, Winchester Cooperative Bank.
Cooperative, yeah.
The Cooperative Bank that allows us to pay for all the extra, like the food for the authors and all of those things. So, yes.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very
Gratitude.
much, Ms. Van der Rudy. We
Thank you,
appreciate that.
Mary.
If
Thank
you'd like to
you.
hang out for, you also monopolize 2 more minutes of your time,
Not even take
the
that much.
chair would be happy to accept a motion.
I move that the school committee approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? All right, Mr. Hopcroft seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4-0. And thank you very much to WIFI for those amazing grants, as well as to our policy subcommittee chair, who is not with us tonight. Mr. Belair has now adopted a very long list of policy subcommittee updates that we've covered in our prior meetings, but we appreciate your joining us and voting yes on them as well. So, I don't know if you fully realize
the
that was in our
consent
consent agenda.
Oh,
are
all- okay,
include
yes,
the
all
minutes
of
of
them.
previous, yes.
Yes,
Yes,
all
yes,
the,
yes.
so the way we have a committee policy where there's a first reading and then a second reading.
Yes.
So we did our first reading prior to you joining the committee. So we
Which of course
appreciate
you read before anyway.
Yeah, I had a
Yes.
good. I enjoyed reading the animal policy. It's very, very
Exactly.
important.
It's very exciting. All right. So mindful of the fact that we were supposed to adjourn to executive session 12 minutes ago, I'm going to go back to item number 4B on our agenda, which is our discussion of state of the town and override and next steps. Now, Mr. Marin, I don't know if you have, okay. I figured you have the updates from today's policy budget subcommittee. It's going to take me a minute to adjust to that one meeting. All right. Do you guys want to, Dr. Hacker and Mr. Marin, do you want to present this?
All right. Good evening, everyone. So today at 1 o'clock, we had our budget subcommittee meeting. And so we just kind of went back through sort of the budget process, and we started this year's budget at level services. And that level services is we take a rollover budget, just current year, roll it forward, and then we work back from that. And so in that process, we reduced about $1 million through known retirements. So budgeting what the replacement would be, and then sort of taking that delta off of the budget. And then also some adjustments for enrollment kind of across the board there. And so that paired with what's needed for level services in terms of special education and student support, our athletics, et cetera, that gave us a level services budget of 6.8% from the FY26 budget. That's that number there. And then the next step was with the work of school committee, budget subcommittee, starting last year, and then worked through the summer in their workshops and state of the town efforts. They identified, or you all identified, additional priorities to add to the budget, and that became our override budget. So the override included those level service components, and then also these override priorities, and that's the interventionist and expanded course selections, curriculum needs, and the preservation of those components around athletics, and then also some things around special education for adaptive physical education and a whole host of things, but those are the main ones there. As you know, the override, it did not pass. And so
I'm actually still in denial.
Yep, still in denial.
We heard that today.
So we need to work back from that number. So that was your voted budget, which was that override budget of 8.31%. So working back from there and going back to our state of the town efforts, the modeling, everything that we put into place so that we would come to a 5% budget to start from for FY27. So to get to 5%, it's reducing that override budget by about 2.3 million. You can see the numbers there. So that is removing funding for all of those override priorities and what we have to do is sort of go through the budget and how to fund those level service needs. Those are needs that we need to keep in our budget, that we can't reduce further. So we're starting at this 5%, and we have to come back to you with some work over the coming weeks about reductions to be made to sort of fill that gap there. So I'll pause for any questions, but it's a quick update.
In case everyone didn't tune into our budget subcommittee earlier today, one thing that I don't know if we made it clear, but I think it's important that we make it clear now, is that there was a scenario when we were going through state of the town, like what happens if there's no override, and in the budget summit, they're like, oh, try to use like 3 out of 4 million of free cash that we're willing to throw at this. And we ran that through the model, and we ran that through our budget, and it came out with like a 3.81% scenario.
Year over year.
For year over year increase with that range of free cash made available to schools. And we said it in special town meeting, and we said it again at budget sub, that we risk not being compliant with our legal obligations at that level. And here at 5% is still a dramatic reduction from where we wanted to be, right? At the 8.3, that 3.81% scenario was an exercise that we did as part of State of the Town and the budget hearing. However, and we've always said it, we run the risk of not being compliant at that level. And so this is why we're bringing forward a 5% as well, because in all the other scenarios, we wouldn't be able to meet our union contract negotiations, not just those legal obligations, but our obligations to students as well at that funding level. So that was never a level that we would really accept. That's why we're using and looking at and advocating for this 5%.
So
those who were not at budget sub today, do you have?
You really missed out. I can't imagine.
I unfortunately was not able to be there, and so I just wanted to sort of recap my understanding here. So, so this literacy we just voted is going to come separately, the funding of that. The first bullet on here removes the override priorities, which means the math interventionists.
This whole list.
That entire list.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about sort of our core educational mission, and so literacy separate, math interventionists and things are coming off here, and then you're saying there's additional cuts, so we don't know where they're going to come from, but we need to make as well to get here, just to fully understand the scope of where we are.
Correct.
We have, a component of the override budget was for level service items that were not budgeted, not anticipated, because there were needs that emerged after spring town meeting last year and the budget was approved. So those are in the neighborhood of 1 million or so.
Right.
Some of those, most of those, we have to do. So that means that we have got to bring those into that 5% budget, which means that we'll need to it'll displace or force some other decisions around reductions.
Right. Okay.
So let me say it a little bit differently, while the 8.31% integrated the strategic additions that we contemplated as part of the override, and that was the budget that this committee previously voted to send to the town manager. That budget, if you go to the previous slide, Mr. Marin, that budget, already was that was, you were correct, it was the 6.8. So the 6.8 was level services without strategic additions. Right.
And this is level services before bringing it to the 5%.
Correct. This would be our normal level services budget in any given budget year.
Right. So this would not include any strategic, we called them strategic additions the past 2 years, basically. We added 3 in, small ones in last year, and then we had a larger portfolio of them as part of our override budget that we've already submitted to the town manager. But so it's not 6.8, it's not 8.46, it's 8.31, it's 5, which means we both have to remove all of the strategic additions unless we find that there's something in there that's, that's why the literacy is handled separately, and hopefully town meeting votes affirmatively on that. But there are also additional things that take us to 5% that were below the actual level services number, which is higher than 5%.
Right. And so I imagine it's perhaps our next meeting when we start looking at some of these trade-offs, because I see like there are a lot of extracurricular and activities that says we won't make additions to, but we may have to make subtractions to
Correct.
some of those
Correct.
as we look at what's our core mission. We've decided to do a strategic addition, as you said, with literacy. The math interventionists are another area that.
And those are the decisions that
Yeah.
we're going to have to figure out.
That's what I'm
right?
saying, is that the next meeting, hopefully we'll have some choices.
So we'll bring you recommendations. We'll start with the budget subcommittee. So our plan is to vet everything through budget sub like we've always done, right, first. And it'll come to you right after that meeting for you to hear the full discussion on it. Our job is to give you a range.
Yep.
And just to be clear, it's not going to be easy to get there. So, and I also just want to say we have 3 full weeks left before April vacation.
Yep.
And then there's April vacation, and then there's Springtown meeting the Monday after April vacation. So we have a short runway. We've done a lot of work. This was what we called our foundational budget. We had brought a 5% already, so we've done a ton of work. But the hardest work now is in making sure that everyone understands what's happening, working closely with the union on what we're going to be proposing, so they are going to have an opportunity to see it, have a conversation with us about it. But ultimately, yes, it's going to come to you, and you've got some decisions to make.
And from us, it goes to the finance committee, and from the finance committee, it goes to the floor of town meeting.
Right.
So it's ultimately, we're just one step on the path, but we're basically revisiting it now. And I will say, so I should clarify, because I think this is important. I mean, obviously, I did not have time to really do this in advance, but one of the chair appointments that I will make this year is that Ms. Minyarji and I will be the budget subcommittee, just because of the situation. I mean, it's somewhat unusual, but spoke to Dr. Hackett when he asked me to step in this afternoon. And I think given the situation, having the chair and the vice chair as the budget subcommittee this year is the direction we've decided to go in. So that's, breaking news, I guess. If it's edges of chair, bless you, for people. But so I think we'll be serving as the budget subcommittee this year just because of the situation and the level of sensitivity that will be around the budget decisions we need to make, both for this year as well as throughout the year. So that's.
I'm also just going to say it out loud. The committee made a decision to change change the actual schedule of budget development a couple of years ago, right? So we submitted the charter required end of January to the town, your budget. Then we took more time. While you've got to decide first whether or not, and you need to know everything that goes into it, but at some point, the end point has to be, is the 5% number what you're going to support? But you're also going to need to do it with the understanding that not everything may be identified at that point, because there's still a lot of time left in our budget cycle in the school year, and things can change. But the major components you will have identified and we'll take action on. We have notification requirements if there are going to be positions that need to be eliminated. We also want to be clear that there's a difference between positions eliminated and actual people losing their job, because we will have attrition naturally that we have. There's some, for example, long-term leave of absences. We'll take full advantage of all those opportunities to really manage this and as best we can through attrition. But I can tell you sitting here right now that it's not going to be possible like it has in years past to manage all of it through attrition.
Right. Listening to the presentation from the elementary literacy team, what were their 2 main challenges? Differentiating instruction, right, and the assessment tools. And all of that we packaged as part of our strategic additions. That was that $2.3 million that is not there anymore. So we're going to have to figure out a way to support this, though we're bringing forward a literacy article with the hope that Springtown meeting supports it. They're asking, and our team is telling us that these are supports that they're going to need ongoing, and we need to figure out how to fit that in the 5%.
These are the decisions that make it so hard.
Yeah. And also just our methodology is we're protecting the core, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to be into the core some, to be candid.
The core being the
The
classroom.
core being classroom teachers, classroom
Student-facing-
students, right.
Right.
Special education support and support services next, and then we work from here out. The issue is there's not a lot out here before we're here, because we've talked about, we are lean, contrary to what some people may think. We don't have our own custodians. There aren't places we could go before we get to that fairly quickly. So, but that's what we will be doing, is making those recommendations from the outside in.
Yeah. So on that point, because that was, I guess my concern is that we really think about that core, and so there are some additional things around the core that we're funding that may have to go away.
Right.
What I heard you say though, and I just want to clarify if this is your intent, because it sounded like you said that the core is the classroom, and then special ed wraps around the core, and that we would be going into the core, which suggests that we're not funding any of that special ed.
Well, we have no choice but to fund all our legal obligations and ethical obligations. I
wanted to clarify that point.
The core being really general classroom instruction and the supports there, and then obviously we have the commitments around special education and other services.
Just want to make sure you weren't breaking any news there.
No.
Or laws.
Try not to get thrown in jail.
Can I ask a question about the 5% number specifically? Because like when I look at some of the other slides for like the 8.3 or the 6.8, like those seem like more specific. And I was curious if there's like an amount of free cash that we're pulling on that puts us at 5%, or if that's just the benchmark and kind of a middle ground between protecting that core and drawing down.
No,
free
it's
cash.
not either one of those things, unfortunately. Great question. So through the State of the Town process, what the committee did commit to is that year over year level services increase, and that was in light of a successful override. But I think it's important for us to start with that commitment, and that was 5% for next year, and then I think 4, and 4.
Yep.
So it's not a random number, and I think it's us trying to work in good faith, because we get so much support from the Select Board and the State of the Town Committee around this effort, that we want to try to deliver on those obligations or that promise. Now, that's where we're going to start, and you might change it, and it might change from town meeting floor, and we don't know. So.
And these are the conversations that we need to have with our friends on other committees, right? To have these conversations with the Finance Committee and with Select Board, so that way we all know what we're walking into at Springtown meeting.
And I mean, ultimately, what I will say is, we have revenue and we have expenditures to look at. And so, obviously, this is an expenditure focused. As we're currently sitting, we're in an expenditure focused posture right now. I'm hoping, because we're in such, frankly, part of the reason why I took some time at the beginning of the meeting to sort of set the stage is because we're in an unprecedented situation. We've already submitted our budget. That budget has gone to the town manager. Finance committee's already in the process of analyzing it, and we've sort of had this exogenous shock of, being told now, okay, we need to do something different. And so, I think we as a team, right, who've reviewed this earlier today, have decided that our posture is to solve this as a first pass through expenditures, right? Now, I'm hoping that that is not the final word. I'm hoping that there is some portion of the solution that can be around revenues as well. But I think we also, as a committee, have to have a broader discussion once we get more information from Dr. Hackett and Mr. Marin. There are also going to be expenditure trade-offs that we need to make within that. There may be certain expenditures that we have scheduled for right now that we may forego in order to expend on something that was in our strategic additions, right? So there are those kinds of decisions that we can still make. And obviously, you having joined the committee, the committee is not comprised as it was when we previously. So I actually found this really odd when I came on board, which is that, essentially you, as a new school committee member, you end up going to town meeting with a budget that the prior school committee voted right before you were elected. So it's this very odd timing and process. We sort of talked about solving it strategically through the bylaw, and we won't even go there today, but it is what it is, right? I think in this particular case, we are more okay than ever to say, you know what, that work is behind us now, and now as a committee of 5, we have to get together and really decide what we want to ask for, because Finance Committee will do what they do. In fact, I anticipate that they will probably go even below 5% when they put the budget on the floor of town meeting, because they have some obligation to have a balanced budget, right? So, it ultimately comes down to us deciding. I mean, I can almost guarantee you at this point, given the situation, that we are going to have to figure out an amendment from the floor that tries to project what we would want out of a budget as a school committee, and hope that town meeting goes along with that.
Because whatever free cash is used is ultimately up to town meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, that was going to be a sort of a
And-
process. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and so even with the conversations before, like in the no override scenario, if we were to get, $3 million in free cash, we would have a 3.75 budget year over year. That we're risking non-compliance.
Yeah.
We can't bring forward. That doesn't make sense for us to advocate for a budget that risks non-compliance. If town meeting wants to go that route, they have that ability, but as a body, I don't think that makes sense for us. And this is a discussion that we were having at Budget Sub, and though there is pain built into that 5%, right? There is still a lot of hard decisions that we're going to have to make. And, it saddens me that we had such a fantastic meeting today talking about this great program that we're about to roll out, and we need to figure out a way to support it. And I don't know if that 5% covers it.
So I appreciate the expense versus revenue view on this, and I share the hope that maybe there's an opportunity for revenue. But the reality, it sounds like, is to get to the core, to get to these numbers, you're talking about personnel. And so we don't have the ability to fix what we do. If revenue becomes an opportunity in November, we're already sort of baked. And so, and I think that goes to some of the non-compliance, is that we may be losing other parts of our district if that's the case. And I guess I think you answered what I was thinking, which is it's too late to put a warrant article on for whatever it is that we may want to do. And so I was thinking it is the only opportunity through our budget, and I think you answered that there could be a floor amendment as well, which might be the other opportunity to let town meeting decide some of these.
To be fair, I mean, it's what we did last year, right? So it was, the Finance Committee budget that came to the floor of town meeting on the yellow sheet was not reflective of what we hoped to get, and we had an amendment that came from the floor that was overwhelmingly approved by town meeting that got us to the level we were hoping to be. Of course, the difference here is, at that time, we were all hopeful that there would be some strategic solution to the structural revenue problem we have. And now we can't necessarily assume that. And so I think we're just in a different position. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think it also forces us to look very carefully at, the places in which the things that we've assumed as part of our core, right? So it's, there are certain things that, over a period of time have become part of Winchester's core. And I think we just need to think, even if those things end up being, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, that can have an impact on our ability to have, to maintain extra education. So there are things that we need to decide about what, I genuinely believe, I will just say this, you heard it from me at the very beginning of the meeting, right? We have a mission and vision. I believe that we should do our best in these constraints to deliver a mission and vision aligned budget, mindful of the fact that there's no way to avoid pain, right? There will be pain, and it will cause the community probably to show up at our meetings and hopefully show up at select board, finance committee, town meeting as well, and advocate for more. But we are in a position where I think we need to really take a hard look with the support of our wonderful staff at what is currently in there, and are those the things that align truly with our mission and vision?
Yeah, I think there's a limited number of things that would be painful but could be put back before you get into things that would be painful and would structurally change.
Agreed. Our goal is to not bring anything to you as a recommendation that would do a total program elimination. Mm-hmm. So that we don't lose a program and then have to figure out whenever the money becomes available, how do we build that program back? The good news and the hard news is that there's not a lot of programs that are beyond what you would expect a school system to have in place, right? So, yeah, I mean, our job is to make sure our kids have what they need with the resources that are available.
Right.
And so this is not an exercise in, trying to scare or try to get more. We're coming to you with what we think is the best budget we can provide that gets kids what they need. And it won't be what we currently provide or what we had hoped to provide. So, and in the end, everyone needs to understand it's you as a body that makes that decision. Then it goes to town meeting. So, quotes in papers and people saying whatever the number is, it's now real, and you're the ones who are going to be having to wrestle with these decisions. So we'll try to make that as easy in terms of the information you need as possible. There's no way we're going to make up, with the limited opportunities we have for revenue, that we're going to be able to make up much. And you can't really count you can't count on the revenue in the next year, right? I mean, because you don't know what's going to be the implications of, for example, raising transportation fees. Is that going to mean less kids take the bus so that we can get less fees? Or athletic fees, does that mean less kids are going to participate in athletics so we get less? So it's hard to really have an impact especially in the first year with revenue. It absolutely has to be the conversation, because it could be the difference between certain things not being able to happen. Because to your point, we're focused on our core mission, right? So.
Should be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, and I mean, the failed override, basically the voters said they want less
Only
from the
half of them.
town. Well, whoever showed up to vote and wanted to express that, they want less. However, our constituents can't vote, right? Our students can't vote. They can't voice their opinion. So it is up to us.
Except for our 18-year-old high schoolers.
Except for our 18-year-old high schoolers, that's right. Except for our 18-year-old high schoolers. But the kids that are going to benefit from a new literacy program can express their opinion. So we have to be their advocates. And now we're forced with making hard decisions, like, are we going to cut athletics or are we going to raise fees? Are we going to have to look at boundaries because we need to think of allocating and cutting sections? These are conversations that we're being forced to have now. So.
And I should say there will also be, I anticipate that there will be a stream of work that goes through the policy subcommittee as well, around sort of, our class size policies, around our enrollment, and zoning policies, right? So those things are things I would anticipate our policy subcommittee is going to take on. So there will be a lot of work to do in subcommittees this year, and that's why I mentioned in my opening remarks, data and accountability, because I think there's also a piece that we really need to do there as well, right? To make sure we hold ourselves accountable for the changes that are being made, and understand that, when people at the ballot box ask for less, that is also going to have potentially an impact on results, and we need to know where those impacts are, so that we can still focus from an equitable perspective on, how that has affected our students. Other questions?
One thing that I'll ask, and Dr. Haggett, you mentioned this a minute ago with regards to transportation and athletic fees, but I think as you guys are coming up with the levers we can pull on the expenditure side, it would also be really great to have a list of where we can pull levers on the revenue side to understand the options available to us to bring more revenue in. I think declining enrollment is a big thing that we've seen that's driving less state aid coming in, and I think it would be great to think about how we can fill up our schools with more students, so we can. I think that's obviously like a longer term situation, years down the line, that will help us out in terms of our budget, but it would be great to, and I'm sure you guys are already thinking about those things, but.
No, it's good that you say it out loud. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I mean, I think one of the things that I've heard, for example, is, is there, I'll just put this out there, it's not something that we've really discussed, but, there are districts that, have specific excellence centers, essentially, so things that they happen to do particularly well. And then they offer those services to smaller adjacent districts that may not necessarily have the ability to run those kinds of programs in the same way. So we certainly know that we've got some expertise around language-based learning disorders, differences rather, in specific, right? And so, there's things to consider, right? Opportunities, but unfortunately they're not, to your point, for this year, right? It's future years. So, other questions? All right, so I think.
Should we make a motion?
I think we should. Would you like to take a stab at that?
I move that the school committee adopt the budget subcommittee's recommendation of a 5% year-over-year budget increase from FY26 to FY27 and the separate article for the arts and letters literacy implementation for submission to the town manager for consideration at spring town meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it's 4-0 because Ms. Bolognese did not rejoin us for the purposes of the minutes. Thank you very much for that. And we will move along to our
I guess we
Springtown meeting update. Do we really need to do that tonight?
I feel like
I think we've kind of done that. So in terms of 4D, which is the consideration of school committee member appointments, I'm going to ask Dr. Hackett because this is one of those first night things. So I know that there is a desire to enlarge our bargaining committee for Unit D. I don't know, is that something the committee needs to take a vote on, or is that just a chair announcement? All right. So in that case, I would like to ask Mr. Belair to join me as one of the negotiating representatives for our Unit D negotiations, since we now have you on the committee. I was previously appointed by the former chair to negotiate, and so because it's our last bargaining unit and you've newly joined, I think it would be great to have you as a partner in that if you're willing to take on that.
Yeah, thank you. Excited to get to work on that.
All right, that's great. And obviously, I said already what our budget subcommittee is going to be. More to follow. I know there's we've also had some communications from other boards and committees about particular specific changes that will be coming, especially with the change in composition of our committee, in particular around having partnership board, which has a school committee member on it, but currently does not because of the election results on Saturday. So we definitely will come back to that at one of our meetings next week.
So this will definitely not be your only meeting that you attend.
Yes. Discussion, so 4E is the discussion of school committee meeting dates for April 2026. I don't know if, is there any specific proposal, but I mean, my immediate concern is next week, right? And, obviously we also have, I think we have 2.5 weeks before April vacation, during which time I think there's, we may still have to meet, but it'll probably be remotely. But I think I want to look at folks' calendars.
We would not.
Maybe Dr. Hackett can sort of set the stage. Sure. What do you think we're going to need in terms of meetings?
You won't need to meet as a full committee before the second, but does the second work for everybody? We're into a holiday somewhere in these next few weeks, are we?
That's correct.
That's next Friday.
So next.
That's the 3rd.
If there's any way to, on the 2nd, I have a 5 to 6 thing I'm in town in Boston for, but if we could either do it earlier or later, or if I could call in or something.
Just to be very clear, next Wednesday is Passover. Next Thursday is Monday or Holy Thursday for Christians, Friday, Good Friday, and then obviously Easter is over the weekend. So to Mr. Hobcroft's point, if we are going to meet on Thursday, I also have an evening conflict that night. So
the chair like to consider a different time for Thursday.
If members are, I don't know necessarily
perhaps a lunchtime meeting.
It is up to the will of the committee whether that's something that's
a lunchtime
that's
meeting.
I have
We can do it
flexibility
as
earlier
Zoom?
in the day.
On Thursday.
If you want to confirm this over text to get our other member on board,
Okay.
I'm fine
I
with
can
that.
start a new committee text thread for scheduling only, and we can go ahead and try to coordinate it that way. But I think that Thursday is probably still our best bet, but it would, for me at least, ideally be earlier in the day. So, okay.
And then I would suggest that you think about the week of the 6th and the week of the 13th, the possibility of holding 2 dates each week.
Okay.
And then I would suggest also I think that really the the week of April vacation, if we could kind of have a one final meeting prior to Springtown meeting, and would do it remotely, but I don't, whatever day doesn't probably matter as much, but
And would we be able to meet as budget sub before the
yes,
Thursday?
yes, yes,
So that we can have a
100%.
discussion and
Yep.
bring
Yep.
our.
Okay, so what I think I'm hearing, just to recap for everyone, is an earlier in the day afternoon meeting on the second Thursday, followed by ideally 2 meetings during the week of the 6th, 2 meetings during the week of the 13th, and then a final Zoom meeting during the week of April vacation, the week of the 20th.
And town meeting starts April 27th.
Correct. But obviously, the budget articles do not come up until after the first Monday in May, so we have some time on that as well. So I will start the new text scheduling thread, and just as a reminder, no discussion or debate can happen in that forum because of open meeting law. So just putting that out there.
Unless you're debating a date to meet.
Exactly. Exactly. Does anyone, so on 4F, does anyone have any questions on the first reading of policies that were updated by MASC in section F? So we will bring those back this is considered our first reading, so we will bring those back for a committee vote at our next meeting or at a future meeting. We have already voted our consent agenda, so at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Hackett whether
We can table executive sessions.
would everybody be okay with tabling our executive
Okay with
session
that.
for tonight, given the fact that it's already 6:45 and we've
Yes.
been here for 2 hours and 45 minutes?
Would the chair entertain a motion to adjourn?
He would.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much to WinCam, and especially thank you to our wonderful educators who came tonight to present. So see you all next week.
Excellent job.